Fire, people. I'll give my best explanation of what's going on with it, and like they say, we're gonna chill. I'll give some time for some people to get into the room. See if I can turn this down a bit. Joseph Gardner put, "Hello, brother. What's up?" Just bringing some stuff to you here. Like I tell people, hey, if a bridge has got a problem, like yesterday, I'll tell you about it because it affects trucking. This kind of thing, you just don't want to be around that area until they get that worked out, you know. And you don't want to breathe that stuff in. I'll go into the technical aspects of it. You know, you're talking about carbon monoxide, you're talking about multiple bonded chemicals. They're only admitting to a couple of chemicals, but they've got a whole dry storage of it. Let's see. Did you send me another one? Yeah, kid, this is another one, and this is new, and it's still ongoing. It started at 10:45 this morning. No, Joseph Gardner, I didn't send you anything here. No, I did not. No, I did not. So whoever that was, no, I did not. I'm not even on Facebook. I've got a Facebook that's truck and stuff, but I don't run it. I just like ain't mess with it. Horsefly's got 2 eyeballs. Horsefly, I'm gonna leave my fly swat down. I'm gonna let you fly all you want to. Let's see, JD, all the punks in chat. Hey Joe and Kid, LL. What's up, JD? So yeah, the gang's all here, JD. I'll go ahead and tell this part of it, and then I'm gonna play this video. Okay? And JD put howdy. Yeah, howdy, JD. All right. This is in, I want to call it Crosby, Texas. It's in the Baytown area, same general area. That's where they, you know, have license to keep all this stuff anyways. I would say maybe it's a little north and east of Houston, if I was saying, compared to the ITC thing, which is still chemicals in the air and on the water and everything else. So yeah, it's a chemical plant. Another one. So let me get into this real quick, and then he put, "Be right back." Okay, I'll get to the comments in a second. Okay, so it's near the Crosby High School that they had a shelter in place at that high school. Then they lifted it, and the parents come to get their kids. So this shelter in place stuff, I think is kind of, I mean, no house is impervious to these chemicals and stuff, but let me just say this: they give you orders, you got to follow them, but then you don't have to stay after that. I'm saying that, you know, this kind of stuff you're supposed to evacuate, but I don't know about this exact chemical. I'll look into it in a second, and I'm gonna let you guys in on it when I'll play it. So for right now, at 10:45 this morning, there was a transfer pipe that they were doing a transfer from one tank to another, either because the chemical got too hot in the other tank, because, you know, I'll get into that in a second, or because there was maybe a leak in the other tank and they were trying to, you know, move that chemical. Maybe that gave it oxygen for it too, but I think, see, these chemicals, they get too hot and they reach their flash point at like 90 something degrees and catch on fire. That's what's up. So the chemical they're dealing with there, I don't know if that's exactly the truth on that one, but most of them have a low flash point. All right, so let's go further. And ignition by compression can happen, you know, if they try to pump it into something that doesn't have a valve on, and if they're not evacuating the fumes properly while they're pumping, that kind of stuff. So here's the thing. At 10:45 this morning, 1 was killed and 2 were critically injured. So that 1 was either so close to that pipe when it exploded that he couldn't get away, which, understand that the chemical suits that people wear when you might be offloading or when you might be at that plant working, A chemical suit is made, it's flame resistant. FRCs are flame resistant. They won't rapidly burn is how they're made. So the way they're made is more for the chemical side than the fire side, if that makes any sense. The big rubber suits, and to keep gases out. So that person was probably just wearing FRCs. So if you're in a plant like that and there's a fire and you're wearing the FRCs, it depends on what type you're wearing, but if you're wearing that chemical suit and you catch on fire, you're supposed to take it off. But then of course you're, if it's on fire, but then of course you're susceptible to the chemicals if you're near there. It's likely what happened was, when that caught on fire, somebody was over there actually trying to be a hero and turn off the valve. That's usually what happens, and then that black smoke evacuates all oxygen. Now, this is just speculation on my part. This is just purely, we're going to call this opinion. Call this whole video opinion. Okay? So, I will get to the comments in a sec. So, an hour ago, they were saying that it was being contained, but it's not contained, and the problem is not even the chemical that's on fire. The problem is that there's a whole warehouse right next to it that they're trying to stop it from catching on because it's full of dry chemicals. That's what they're worried about. Now, each one of those silos that you're looking at, this is not a chemical storage facility like the ITC fire. They're allowed to have more volatile components in, they're large quantities, but they're smaller quantities than what was over at ITC. And they even have chemicals that don't work and play well with each other, okay, basically. And if they are using any type of a chloride there, which is a reactant, it's highly reactant, okay? This is all speculation because they're not telling us, but I'm just saying, if they are, and oftentimes companies do, or any type of an oxidizer, once you get a fire, listen to what I'm saying when I say this, and this is why I say this. It's very telling in what is in a fire when the people who understand it, like the chemists and like the workers at the plant, are running for their lives. The report was that it was basically a mad dash for survival to get out of that plant from every person there, because they know full well what's in that plant. Now, just like I say before, hey, when everybody else is running out, the firefighters running in, they, have an idea too, and they're fighting it from whatever distance they can to keep safe. So far, it's just one person that was killed when it happened, and 2 that were critically injured. They were probably trying to get him out after he got burned or hurt. That smoke, there's no oxygen in there to be had, people. I'm gonna give you a quick explanation, and I'm gonna play this. When chemicals are on fire, because they're telling you nothing, so I'm telling you this. When chemicals are on fire, something happens. It's not like when your car is running outside and idling and burning, and it does put off some fumes, but you're not going to die unless you're sitting there, trying to breathe all of them at once or something. And then it's going to affect you, and then you can get help and you should be okay. These chemicals are different when they burn. And when you have any type of a burn, whether it's your car, whether it's natural gas, whether it's, they had in England, there's a video, I'm going to put a link up to it. They were talking about things that were deadly back in after the war in the homes in England. Okay, so appreciate that, JD, and I will get these comments. So they were talking about all the deadly things from after World War II that people put in their homes. One of them was a water heater that they had in the bathroom. The reason why is it burned all the oxygen in the room. Then when there's a low amount of oxygen, like in this fire, because it depleted all the oxygen, that's not burnt chemicals. That's not just dirty burn, it's bringing chemicals up. But what I'm saying is this: there's, instead of carbon dioxide being created, it's carbon monoxide. So what happens is it bonds a chemical. When there's a less oxygen in there and there's a fire, whether it's a car burning in a garage, see, it's a perpetual problem that perpetually escalates itself. As there's less oxygen, the bonds, when it burns, creates more smoke of carbon monoxide. Okay, and I'm gonna show y'all something. This is not just a prop. This is something I actually keep in my truck, regardless of what anybody might say about anything. This is a carbon monoxide detector. Okay, 0, because everything's good, right? Keep a carbon monoxide, not just a smoke detector, a carbon monoxide. Once you start understanding chemicals, you'll do some of the stuff I do. Carbon monoxide, people. The problem is there's no oxygen to be had there. Okay, now hear what I'm saying. Okay, it turns, instead of carbon dioxide after burning, it turns into carbon monoxide, and it's deadly. But then also something else happens. These are chemicals in this plant that are highly reactive with each other. Okay, a quick overview is, to have fire you need oxygen, you need spark, and you need fuel. However, when you've got a chemical like this, you don't need a spark. There's two things that can happen. If they're pumping it through that pipe, especially if it's already warm enough, you got ignition by compression, like a diesel engine with no spark plugs, but compress it too much and it'll blow up. And then you have a chemical flashpoint, or chemical reaction, and then of course you got the heat, which is a flashpoint. If you get these chemicals over a certain temperature, they'll flash and catch on fire themselves. Two of them together, you put them together, you wait a few seconds, and then all of a sudden it flashes up. That's why the old chemical sets from back in after the war were, you know, outlawed and stuff, is because they were catching houses on fire and stuff. So understand that there's a video on that I'll show. There's these two women that talk about it. They go over the the flash fires between two chemicals just igniting themselves when they react. It's a chemical reaction. So you've got, in this fire, you've got not carbon dioxide, but it's starting to make carbon monoxide. Plus it evacuates all oxygen the way these chemicals work. And they haven't given us names of them, but I got a pretty good idea of a few of them. And then you've got it's problematic because it's perpetually bad when all these chemicals here are reacting and forming bonds. If you put one chemical in the presence of another, it's either going to repel the chemical a little bit, it's going to react with it and maybe catch fire, or it's going to bond with it and make a whole nother chemical. And anytime you have more than 2 bonds, it causes cancer. So if you have H2O, that's one bond. Hydrogen, 2 parts. Oxygen, 1 part. You've got water. If you split that bond, you get hydrogen and oxygen. But if you were putting bonds together and you had 3, like hydrogen, oxygen, and you're talking about like this, carbon monoxide, I mean, that's 3. These are like 5 and 6. It's off the charts how many problems you could have. And it gets exponentially worse because the fire burned the oxygen out, added carbon monoxide to the air, then it took the chemicals up with the heat. So they're working on this. Maybe they'll get it out by tomorrow. Overnight I wouldn't stay there, bottom line. At least overnight on this one, but I'm still saying you shouldn't be there around the ITC mess. It's all over the bay. They're pulling up thousands and thousands of gallons. They want to tell you, oh, it killed a turtle, oh, it killed a fish, but they won't tell you nothing about the thousands of people. I said it'd be tens of thousands. I said thousands, then I said tens of thousands. So it's going to be on the other part, the other fire, the ITC, the people affected in the end, 10 years from now, who it eats their bone marrow and kills them on that stuff, because you can't even get a bone marrow transplant with this stuff. It's going to kill probably, you know, in the thousands to tens of thousands on that end. This one's going to be more of a nuisance at first, but if it gets to that warehouse, and I think it will, they're all in deep mess, okay? And this is a bad chemical, but you look at all these other silos and they're not telling what's in them. They let those loose. This is all Pandora's box waiting to happen. This is bad, but it's not as bad as it will be, and that's why everybody was running for the hills. So this warehouse is in Crosby. I'll read some comments real quick before I get too far behind, and then I'm gonna hit play. Kmco chemical plant fire in Crosby kills 1, injures 2, and forces residents to shelter in place. That's JD. Okay. Updated 2 hours ago, Crosby, Texas emergency crews are working to control a chemical plant fire at Kmco at 16503 Ramsey Road, just off the Crosby Freeway in East Harris County. Y'all see why I like JD? JD, you need to put your own stuff up on your channel. I'm gonna give you a hard time about that. JD says also, 1 person has died at the scene according to the Harris County Sheriff's Office. 2 people were taken to the area hospitals by life flight. Yeah, those are the 3 people. 1 tried to grab the valve and he got hurt. I'm sure of it. This is all speculation. I don't think he was just walking by. I think he was trying to do his job, which is in the event of something, you shut it down from it going further. Just like in a submarine, you know, you shut the door so the whole thing don't sink. That kind of stuff. And I think the other 2 people probably drug him out and probably got hurt doing it. That's just what this is just speculation. They were all running, okay? So, and they probably, you know, set off their monitors. They probably hit the alarm, and then everybody knew what section it was and what it was going on. And they don't want to tell all the chemicals. They want to tell 1. They say they're getting a list of chemicals. They already full well know. They've already given you a ballpark, I'm sure, to, you know, somebody's got an idea. They're just not telling us, but that's fine. A shelter in place has been ordered for all residents within a 1-mile radius of the Kmco plant fire. JD tweeted out the article in your stream. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Mike Bizzle Shizzle put, the wall is not designed to keep them out, it's designed to keep us in. FEMA and other governmental agencies are orchestrating this in order to get in on around locations of interest. Dioxin in the water from the paper mill causes muscular dystrophy. And what's in the warehouse? What's in the warehouse, they won't tell us, but they do, they let it slip out. It's combustibles. I would actually say, my personal opinion, I bet it's something chloride and probably something oxidizer. It's like I said, this is the worst possibility that could happen is if that goes to that warehouse, like they're fighting it from being in. And even the smoke and heat can make that stuff in the warehouse catch on, like I said, because you don't necessarily have to have spark. You don't necessarily have to have flame, okay? You can have a chemical that is a chemical reaction that creates fire, or you can have ignition by compression. Or the heat can get so hot it can make it spontaneously combust. Residents report their homes shaking and seeing, yeah, that happened with the explosion, and seeing a thick column of smoke rising into the air. Some residents are evacuating as a precaution. Yes, I would recommend that you do that if there's not the shelter in place that's legally keeping you from doing that. I personally, myself, I would, yeah, I ain't gonna tell you that I'd be going anyway, but I'd be gone. A number of school districts had sheltered in place following the blast. Crosby and Sheldon IDC have since lifted those procedures. Yeah, and they're picking them up from the high school, the parents. Channelview ISD announced they will be releasing students on their regular schedule, but will continue to monitor air quality. I say paper mill because during the last flood, Houston had a paper mill, and Channelview started leaking dioxin from a paper mill. They buried waste products from the 80s. No, this is different, and this is possibly worse than that. And this kind of, the chemicals like this, they cause your bone marrow to die, period, and you will die, even from exposure from stuff. So they haven't given out the exact name except for one chemical on this, and I'm gonna look it up in the book. I'm gonna hit play. I'm just gonna hit play, because if I keep reading these comments, we won't get to it.
And this has been a very bad day.
Two places, by the way.
At chemical and related manufacturing facilities. We have some video now.
This is another one.
Fire. This is going to be in North Houston, and it is at a fiberglass plant. This is in North Houston.
That's not this one. That's the fiberglass plant.
Some Snapchat video.
That's the chemical plant.
Burn.
2 fires.
And this looks like it was posted. Well,
fiberglass plant
posted by Aldine in the Aldine area.
This one's the one that you need to be concerned about.
Some of the text also that is that's being added to these video images. So, now, what are we looking at right now? Is this the fiberglass plant? Okay,
that's the fiberglass plant. She don't even know what she's got. That's
well,
the fire at the
we don't have any word
plant.
yet on potential injuries in that situation. This is unrelated. Obviously, one in Houston, one in Crosby.
Keep the comments coming, but I'm not going to be able to possibly read them all. Keep them coming. Let's see. We're going to pause this. Hold on a second here. Is it going to work? 1 second.
north side of Houston as well.
Okay.
And this again from our viewers who have cell phones and are taking quick clips of that plume of smoke. Also, again,
let me try to get you the best
pretty
view I
much
can.
straight up, it looks like. But we are working to find out what caused that situation and whether or not there are any injuries there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been talking about
right there. All right, so that's that one, and this is the watch live one, shelter in place deal. They got stuff going on like in a lot of places. I've got
every morning I take 1 scoop of Organifi green juice, mix it up in a glass of water, and congratulations.
I've got another one. I want to show something real quick. I've got another one too that I had brought up that I've got on a live on this device.
This has offered a shelter in place for all residents within a 1-mile radius of the Kmco chemical plant.
Oh, this is the live one.
Again,
okay, that's good
that's
enough.
just happening in the last half hour or so. But all of this started around 10:45 this morning, and we're now approaching
And this is
2
all
hours
live.
as we watch this fire and chemical explosion that's happening at the
Try to give you a
Kmco
bit of
plant
zoom.
in Crosby that has also led to a shelter in place for at least 2 school districts in the area, Crosby and Sheldon ISD.
Oh, it did
as
catch
well as
fire? Oh,
2
man, that's
schools in
bad.
Channelview, including roads.
JD said that the
as well.
adjacent
So,
storage
if you're just joining us
building
now,
with
again,
solid
approaching
goods
2
also
hours
caught
that we've
fire.
been
If that's
following this
true,
chemical fire in
that's
Crosby.
bad because it's going to let off a
And
lot
of
of
course, you know,
gases.
parents very
Okay, yeah,
concerned about
that's
those
new.
shelters in
There's
place
2
because
different
they can't get to
fires
their kids. Our Janelle Blue
on this
is,
plant.
Live in the neighborhood.
One's
But
here.
I understand you've got a parent
That's the
with you,
chemical
Janelle.
facility, I believe, the warehouse.
That's right, Jermaine. So actually, we're outside of one of the Crosby kindergarten pre-K.
Oh, man, there's a
schools
whole
here, and you can
line of
see, Derek, I don't know if you can show
train
the fires
tankers right here.
over our shoulder here. So we
Oh,
are
man.
pretty close, probably within a mile of it. And
They need
I
to
don't
get
know
them
if you
out
can
of
show
there.
The cars. There's a long line of cars here, people trying to pick up their kids. And what's happening is that shelter in place, they're not letting the kids go. They're not opening the doors at all. The AC units are shut off, and the kids are staying inside. And I have Dolores here with me. She's been waiting to pick up her daughter since around, or her granddaughter since around.
But you're
11,
outside,
right? Tell
and
me a
she's
little
got
bit
her
about your
window
morning.
down. God, these
Yeah,
people are geniuses.
I left the house about 10 to 11. Right before I left the house, I heard the noise. I wasn't sure what it was. It sounded like a car wreck maybe. The house shook a little bit. And so I said, I'm going to hurry up and leave before I run into, you know, emergency vehicles. So, but it was too late. I saw the smoke and fire trucks and, you know, I got here, but they're not letting them out.
Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure because, I mean, we're out here.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
so
You're
why
out
don't
there.
Just let them come out.
And instead, you're kind of having to sit out here and wait in your car.
Yeah.
And the ceiling
Concerned
of that
about being out
smoke
here?
is tonight is going to bring it down, you know, to low levels,
A little bit. Not
and
too
they'll
much.
be breathing in their
How do
houses
you,
and
how do you
stuff.
think Valerie, she's
All that
4, how
smoke.
do you think she's doing right now?
I don't know.
That's worse than it was
I don't know. I
earlier.
hope she's doing okay.
This
I
has
hope,
gotten
you know,
bigger,
she
people.
doesn't
It was
realize
almost
that
contained,
they're
but
not letting them out,
it's that
you know?
storage place
Have
with
you
the
ever had anything
chemicals
like
in
this
it.
happen
That's
before?
No.
it's all done.
You live pretty close,
for-
right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
And so
That's
what?
bad.
I mean, what happens next? You just kind of wait.
I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should go home and
And
come back or keep waiting. You know, I just don't know.
Yeah.
We did just get a call saying that it's going to continue.
yeah,
the
all
shelter in
night.
place, so
They're going to have a fire all night.
Okay. Well, we hope that you get her pretty soon. Okay, and we'll check back in with you in a
Let me
little
move
bit, see
this
how
here.
long this takes.
A little bit of
So,
angle here.
what I was talking to a Crosby ISD official earlier, and they said that 8 schools.
8 schools. Hold tight. What happened here?
President Trump just minutes
Oh,
ago.
this is just a
When you
stupid.
watch cable news, here's what you're actually.
This is a stupid ad. Let's see if it'll go to finish it. All right. So the point is, let's see, back to the lab. Come on, really?
A network of
I'll just turn this down.
news,
Okay, listen.
And working tirelessly to tear down your conservative values. When you watch.
Basically, this is really bad because of the time of the afternoon it is, and with the ceiling going to drop down. I'm gonna hit this on pause for a second because they're not telling anything. They've got these parents out there waiting. Let me skip this mess. They've got the parents out there waiting, right, for their kids with their doors open, talking to reporters, but they're telling the kids to shelter in place. It's only going to get worse. That smoke is only going to get more and more, and you know, it's thicker, and it's going to affect more areas, they need to be leaving now. And the reporter, on the scene reporter standing outside, no gas respirator mask. I mean, these people were running from this plant, right? Okay. I don't have to go over that again. She should be in a full chemical hazmat suit with a hood, with a SCBA breather, and she shouldn't even be out there at all. But if she's going to be, and they should be evacuating everybody, all right? But they're not. So, okay, shelter in place, right? Until whatever. They're not going to keep them kids all night. It's just going to get worse and worse. So, I'm sure they have monitors that's gone off like crazy. This plant probably didn't turn theirs off. They probably have actual numbers because they need to know which tanks are leaking what. They need to know on this one because they're all reactive to each other and it can hurt the firefighters. Those other big storage tanks, they already knew it was all jacked up. So, but they turned their monitors off. So, that's what I would be doing, is go inside and get my kid out of there. So they don't have gas masks. They're out there. Oh, it's okay for her to be on the scene, but it's not okay for anybody else. No, it's affecting her if she's breathing this, and what it does is it eats your bone marrow. But, okay. So there's a fire. They say shelter in place for a 1 mile radius. It should be 1 mile evacuate. Or actually 3 to 4 because of what's going on. And now this is going to be more smoke. And then here's the problem. That storage facility catching on fire, those dry chemicals burning, they'll burn hot, they'll burn slow, they'll melt down. It's going to be the worst of the worst, and then they're going to react with each other. Like I said, all the bonds that happen in that fire, and it being depleted of oxygen, and it creating carbon monoxide, but also creating other bonds and other chemicals. Like if you add anything to chloride, it's a reactant, but if you add something to it, it will create something that's even worse. So I'm gonna let this play here, and then we'll go further here. So let's see here. She's telling nothing. You're missing nothing.
Some of the parents are saying, they live further away.
But when it blew up, it was so big of an explosion, it rocked everybody's house for like a couple miles.
The classroom, they've shut the doors and they're not letting anyone in or out at this moment while that shelter in place continues. And as you just heard Dolores say, that she's heard that it's not going to go on even longer. So there you go. You see that there's the smoke right there, right next to the school. So we're going to see
worse than it was earlier.
Kind of monitor what's
this has been going on since 10:45 this morning. It'll be burning all night at least for that plant, for that warehouse. I would say maybe even 2 nights.
You were talking to Dolores and some of the other parents. Did any of them indicate whether they fell to the blast when it happened?
And they could have stuff in there like brake fluid or who knows what. They could have the first chemical. I'm going to have to look up what it was.
That's whenever they weren't allowed to take them home with them. But yes, they have all told me that they did hear and feel it when it happened right around 10:30, 10:45 this morning.
All right. Well, hopefully the little kids, the kindergartners, the pre-cares are
okay, and thank you for the coverage. Yeah, man, I'm just a trucker, and I don't want people to go and sleep next to a place that's doing that if they could know ahead of time. You know what I'm saying? And then breathe that stuff in and then die.
Absolutely. And
not even getting paid for the hazard.
Telling folks, please.
And there's train cars. They gotta get them cars out of there.
But of course, as a parent,
that must be the warehouse.
And they just want to find out what's happening with
I don't know.
In the meantime, Cheetah Craft has been
it looked like
tracking
2 different fires
in the area and just talking about conditions up
That's
there.
the leg of the
Cheetah, what's the latest?
helicopter.
Okay, well, across the area, we're really tracking calm winds out of the northeast all morning long. Really, winds have been very steady.
I'm gonna turn this down.
About the same, less than 5 miles per hour.
Okay.
So really calm conditions. So calm
listen, it don't. Yeah, calm surface winds right now. Let me tell you what's going on. They're swirling around. The winds are swirling around. They're even blowing one direction, and the lower level winds blow a different direction. Okay, so that's going to change tonight, but the pressure will drop, and those high winds that are up top are going to keep it low, and those gases are going to cool and drop down with it, and then so. North Houston is where the unrelated fiberglass fire. On this one, I would say it will affect a few hundred people at where it's at now that will have problems. And then if that all the rest of that stuff burns up, thousands will be in the hospital. And later, the chemical stuff will kill them. Just like the other one. Later, they're going to get bone marrow eating cancer stuff. I don't know how. The guy on Twitter who's a doctor can explain the exact effects of that. He's a doctor of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, the original fire plus another fire started. Okay, it was almost, I guess, it was today. So, I ain't going to say at the same time, but today, a fiberglass plant in North Houston caught on fire that's unrelated. This one here is on fire since 10:45 a.m. And the other fire has got a problem where everything went into the bay because the wall broke, and so all those gases are everywhere, and all the oil and nasty chemicals that are deadly chemicals are in the bay, and they're killing all kinds of wildlife and stuff. But they washed off a bird and it died later. That kind of mess. They don't want to tell about the people. Well, here's the thing. So basically, here's what you don't know, or what I told in a different video, but the fire at the ITC plant, that's been, you know, an ongoing cleanup and still ongoing on the cleanup from a couple weeks ago, and that burned for over a week straight. They bought all the foam to fight fires. So as crazy as it sounds, those people, those same people over at ATC are now over here that were fighting that fire and firefighter stuff are over here fighting this fire now because they have all the foam. So ITC is probably going to sell that foam that's left over at a profit and actually make money off of this fire. But the fire department's taking it and whatever. So you see what I'm saying? It's kind of crazy. But they bought all the foam ever to be had anywhere around, anywhere to fight any fire. ITC owned it. Because they bought it. They bought it all up. And so now they happen to send it over to here to fight this fire. Because there's no other foam to be had. I know it sounds crazy, but then you know, yeah, sad state of affairs. Yeah. So I'm gonna turn this guy up. He's got a right to talk, man. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Can I rewind him? Yes, I can. Hold on.
That a little bit from a distance.
I want to hear this guy.
You can see it across the water there. That it sort of
hard-working American. He's got a right to
kind of
speak.
Just sparks straight up, and then when it gets to a much higher elevation, then you can see it sort of wafting across.
And that's good because you don't want that smoke near the ground, which is what we saw with the last fire. Are we going to go to Adam right now? Is he ready?
See if you can. Yeah, that's decent.
All right. Before we go to Adam Bennett, it looks like he's speaking to folks on the ground, kind of. Okay. All right. He's in a staging area there. Adam, who are you speaking with now?
At some point, I'll put this on my audio.
Ben, you were on Justin's crew, who we just spoke with a minute ago, inside the plant that's on fire. Just kind of walk me through where you were and what happened.
Well, we were out in the fabrication yard. Next thing you know, my foreman, started getting everybody together because there was something over the radios.
Oh, he got out. He was in the fabrication yard.
Oh, yeah. And there was something going on, and he just decided to round up everybody. Next thing you know,
good decision.
Huge explosion, and you just saw people walking out, running out the gate.
Yeah, running.
So at that point, we were just waiting. We have a procedure, like every other plant and every other contractor, of where to go, when there is an explosion.
The city?
They stopped it.
Or the school district?
Sounds like standing by Adam Bennett, of course, talking to employees who evacuated from the Kmco plant in the area, and we're taking
a live look right now. All right, let me try to get you a better view. I had to move it so the light wouldn't mess it up.
Have been told to shelter in place, and that the neighborhood within a 1 mile radius, of course, is being asked to shelter in place. So what does that even mean?
What does that even mean? See?
Would have to do
your house is not a magical non-chemical place.
First,
it's not a clean
everyone
house.
Inside. Bring your family members, bring your pets inside, lock your doors, close your windows, air vents and fireplace dampers.
Say your prayers.
Off. We know that the schools in the area,
some fireplaces don't have a damper. It pushes that wind right down through the fire chimney.
Sounds like we're heading back to Adam.
I think Adam,
if you have a chimney and you can't close it, get out.
And how far away were you at that point from that explosion?
Of course, I can't say break a shelter in place, so do it after the shelter in place is over. Wink, wink,
just,
you know.
At the yard, you know.
Did you have any protective gear on at that point?
Just safety glasses, nothing out of the ordinary.
But you haven't felt any
They don't give you anything like that.
effects, anything like that?
No, nothing.
Not yet, you ain't gonna feel it,
Everybody
bro.
on your crew accounted for?
Yeah, we had a head count right after we exited the plant, and everybody's accounted for.
And I know I asked Justin the same
It's
thing.
good that he's on TV, because if he is affected, then he'll be able to sue later and show proof that he was there, even if his employer's out of business at that point, or paid off.
Who knows?
They don't tell you guys.
We don't know.
And so you went out through the back gate, the back kind of under the fence too as well?
I mean, it wasn't literally, we didn't crawl underneath the fence. Like I said, we were able to get him a walking
Some people did crawl under the fence.
Grinder and just cut that lock perfectly off and just open the gate. And
They cut the lock and broke out of a gate that was shut. Good job.
And any kind of communication from the plant with you guys since then about what to do or what's next?
We're just waiting to see what they tell us. I mean, it's going to be pretty sure a couple of days till we actually get back to work.
That's a good way to piss off security, is cut a gate, lock, and open that sucker up and go running. I think it's awesome.
Glad everybody on your
That's awesome.
So appreciate you talking to us. Thank you so much, man. Be safe.
Oh, what am I eating?
All right, guys. So yeah, we just heard from
I'm having
employees that were in the plant at the time.
Vienna sausages.
The explosion. They said
I'm having
got a warning from the foreman, maybe just a matter
crackers.
of seconds.
And this is epic.
There was a loud explosion.
I'm eating bison.
And they said everybody pretty much
Buffalo.
took off from that point. But
epic.
nobody's really quite sure what is.
This is what I was talking about. Epic.
Inside the
You got to get
tanks.
these from the truck stop.
But at this point, they said they haven't felt any kind of health effects. But they are
No, I got some chips over there.
Just basically see what their next steps are from the supervisor.
And we're chilling and watching this craziness, you know.
I don't know if you're aware, but your signal cut in and out a little bit, so we didn't actually, our viewers didn't get to hear everything that I think Ben was telling you. So just to sort of backtrack one or two questions, if you don't mind. We had originally heard that
they got beef too, but that buffalo's awesome.
But is Ben and were they telling you they think it's a tank or something else that caught fire?
What?
Yeah, that was their understanding, although he said he was a pretty good distance away, maybe a few hundred yards or so by the time that explosion happened. So he said he basically heard the explosion and just took
heard
off
it.
running,
It blew houses, man. Houses felt
so,
it, man. It just
we can check
it was
back and
boom.
circle back around just to make sure.
It was a
but,
big one.
That's what we're hearing at this point.
And was he able to share any information? We understand there is one fatality, maybe somebody still missing, and a couple of 2 or 3 injuries. Was he able to share anything about that? Was he, does he know who may have been hurt?
So I don't think so. Big picture, he wasn't really sure about that. We were just talking mainly about his crew and the people he was with. He said that everybody that was in his section of the plant was accounted for. But as far as everybody else, he wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's such a chaotic situation for them to get.
They got to pay those guys for being there, you know.
For some of
They're
them to get
probably
out of
like,
the
y'all gonna pay us,
facility and
right?
Get to safety. So a lot of questions remain. But thank you so much, Adam, for the very latest. And again, good to see those 2 folks that you interviewed. The employees are safe and sound.
Now that
I was just
tells
very
it better.
interesting.
Now you understand?
Sort of different. The first fellow he talked to, they said they had to climb underneath the fence to get out
because it was locked.
Right.
Yeah.
And this crew, they had, apparently bolt cutters or something. They said they just cut the lock clean off the gate.
Yeah.
And then everybody walked out the gate.
Absolutely. And this is video from earlier today. This is aerial video that was shot by Air 11 earlier today. We want to make that very clear. This is from several minutes ago.
Let's see, I'll pause this for a sec. Okay, so I'll read some comments real quick. Go through these comments real quick here. Start there. And what's in the warehouse? It's dry chemicals, and they're admitting to the fact that they're combustible. They don't want to admit that some are probably oxidizers too, but we'll see what happens with that. JD put, residents report their home shaking and seeing a thick cloud of smoke rising into the air. Some residents are evacuating as a precaution. They're leaving because they want to live. JD put, a number of school districts had sheltered students in place following the blast. Crosby and Sheldon ISD have since lifted those procedures. Channelview ISD announced they will be releasing students on their regular schedule, but will continue to monitor air quality. Yeah, but they weren't letting though maybe that was channel view, but they wasn't letting those people out. That's maybe not channel view. So let's see. I say paper mill because during the last flood, Houston had a paper mill in channel view. San Jacinto River started leaking dioxin from a paper mill. They buried waste products from the 80s. My family lives in Crosby, Atasatcha, and Channelview. Man, tell them about it. I know you probably already have by this comment. Tell them about it and tell them to ride. Let's see. One worker told ABC 13, at least for a couple days, man, a leak was detected just before the blast. He said workers were scrambling out of the area, even crawling under fence to get away. Yeah, and this worker, he just told you that was great. He cut the block. He's like, piss on security, man. We know what's up. They cut the lock and opened the gate. Let's see. JD put Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez says the preliminary information is that a transfer line ignited in the area of a tank with isobutalene and the tank caught on fire. Yeah, that's the chemical. And I meant to write that down. You spelled it right too. Somebody else didn't spell it right earlier. You did a good job with that. So, because it makes a difference between the chemicals, especially when you look them up. But I knew what it was. So it's a chemical compound, iso, mixed with anything butylene. Like, okay, look. If you want to go there with it, like butylene would be like a lighter, a Zippo, butylene. Anything that's butyl is like that, kind of an oil. But you add other chemicals to it, it becomes a lot more volatile, and they have the ability to mix all kinds of stuff here at that plant. And then of course now they're mixing it just because it's all breaking out and getting together. Maybe not yet, but it will. An adjacent storage building with solid goods, that's the one I was worried about, also caught fire. Firefighters are currently working to contain it. That's why I was saying there's like 2 fires. So, and then Mikey Bizzle Shizzle, I'm just going to call you Mikey. Mikey says, my family's literally 10 miles south and southwest from it. I think they're more worried about people, honestly, that are north and not towards Houston, but north and maybe east to it, because that's the way the winds are going to change tonight. You hear what I'm saying? I mean, but it's close enough. 10 miles, you know what I'm saying? 10 miles, I'd leave anyway, but 10 miles they might be all right. You know what I mean? I'd say 1 to 4 miles I'd be worried, for real. But the wind's going to shift, I believe, and go to the north tonight, because it's the lower winds that matter, not the ones they're showing. JD, like we talked about, always chemical plants, always Texas. That's not good. Yeah, I know. Have it on mute so it's confirmed. The dry goods storage area did indeed catch fire, and question mark, as a precautionary amid the current shelter in place, Harris County Precinct 2 is temporarily closing the following Crosby facilities: Crosby Park, Crosby Sports Complex, and the Crosby Community Center. Yeah, you ain't gonna be playing no basketball tonight. Then go inside and get your kid and get out of there, derp. Yeah, that's truth. That's humble as I stumble. We're gonna call him Humble. Yeah, and thank you for the coverage from Humble. You're welcome, Humble. Like I said earlier, that's just what I do. So the original fire is still going, plus another fire started. Yes, on that facility there's 2 fires, plus there's another fire in North Houston that they probably already have out by now, but we'll see what they're burning, and that's at a fiberglass plant. And then there's still the chemical leak that they're dealing with, ITC at Deer Park, Texas, just east and bordering with Houston. And he put, I hear you, sad state of affairs. I hear the bag trucker, I have combos, what are you eating? I showed you what I was eating there too. Those epic bars, look, these bison bars, man, are freaking good. So it's like a bar of meat for like $3.99. This bar of meat, man, that's like a steak, right? And it's bison. So let's see here. Let's see what we got here. Kmco LLC, which identifies itself as specialty chemical manufacturing and toll processing service to many of the world's largest chemical companies. Yeah. So not something that you want to just automatically attach to gasoline refinery or something. These are chemical plants. They just, want to look like they're doing normal stuff. Website says its East Harris County facility has batch and continuous distillation and multiple reaction capabilities. Reaction capabilities. Did you hear what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying? They can distill, but they can also have reaction capabilities. That means two products that react, okay? Producing over 900 million pounds per year of toll manufacturing products. Kmco touts investing significantly and leveraging our past 40 years of success to transform into a next-gen, best practice-driven company that meets and exceeds our customers' expectations. Okay, so I'm gonna get off this. I'm gonna put this on mute for a second, and we're gonna get through this and see if I can skip this garbage. But here, you know what? We could do this a little bit different. There you go. So I can read these comments and not be distracted by that dude talking stupid stuff there on that commercial thing. Let's see what we got. The sheriff's office later confirmed isobutalene. Yup. A colorless gas. That's because they were informed of that. They were informed of other things that's there, but they haven't been affected also. I'm sure they know. But I'll start again. The sheriff's office later confirmed isobutylene, a colorless gas with a faint petroleum-like odor, just a little bit, and once you breathe it, you know it's bad already, was the chemical that ignited the fire at its Ramsey Road facility. Now that's what caught on fire, but it's also burning other stuff, I'm sure, now in that other building, definitely, but even around it, those other tanks. An adjacent storage building with solid goods also caught fire trying to contain it. Yep. So we're going to go back into this real quick. Get you back on track.
But the situation is still happening right now. The fires are still going, and firefighters are working to get those flames out. We talked a little bit. We heard from Adam when we spoke to the two employees that one of them said one of the fires was. This
is KHOU 11
out of
Dallas.
It was a storage facility.
I'm sorry, Houston.
And we've seen two separate fires burning, so there's a good chance that one could have started from a storage facility, the other
I always check their stuff.
Warehouse, and the other from a tank. So again, don't quite know the sources. We haven't gotten official word.
I'm gonna pause this.
Kmco on as to how.
This is one fire here. Okay, this is another fire here. Oftentimes, heat alone can make. I mean, it could have been the thing they were transferring. I don't believe it'd be that far of a distance. Heat alone from here can make this stuff catch on fire. Those with the fans right there, those are likely air conditioning units to keep chemicals cool in the warehouses and in the places where they keep them. They got to keep that stuff really, really cool. Some of them have to be kept, I would even think, cryogenically cool. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing here, but to have air conditioning units up like that, you know what I'm saying? Those are big units, lots of them. Looks like at least a 6-pack, if not an 8-pack. Yeah, and so it caught on at this second place here. I'm gonna hit play again.
This fire started, but what we have heard from those two employees is that they didn't have a lot of time to evacuate.
That shows you better what's up.
The explosion happened seconds after they got a warning from a foreman or smelled some chemical.
Melted
one of them smelling a chemical in the air. So there was not a lot of time to escape. That is the other thing that we've learned from employees.
Yeah, there's no time to escape. You run from that.
Person,
and hope you live.
Dead as a result of this explosion. 2 people.
While you're putting your mask on, you run.
And don't know the extent of their injuries, but we know that from scanner traffic earlier on that Jeremy Rogalski from our investigative team told us the person likely suffered from burns, and we know that Life Flight was there on the scene. So this was a critical situation to get folks to the medical center as soon as possible. There's still a shelter in place from the Harris County Sheriff's Office offering that shelter in place for all residents within a 1-mile radius of the Kmco.
You see that little water hose?
When we look at this map and we zoomed in a little bit, Sherman, and you noted earlier, there's not too many homes in the area in that immediate vicinity.
Yeah.
But there are some schools in the area, and parents are concerned about that. And of course, it might be stretching beyond that 1-mile radius because we just don't know what is burning and what is in that smoke.
We have a tweet, I think, from the Harris County Office of Emergency Management.
Oh yeah, that was some stuff on Twitter.
What to do if you are
one guy tweeted on Twitter that this plant has got a whole lot of bad things against it already.
Bring that up so folks can take a quick look as to. Okay.
I'm gonna pause this.
I guess
this particular plant Yeah, one home is too many. That's right. Well, there's also the schools with all them kids. That's even worse. So, but here's the thing. This particular plant, somebody put on Twitter that they were already having problems with the EPA and with probably OSHA, but definitely the EPA and one other environmental agency for things they were doing wrong, code violations, whatever they were doing. They were in some deep trouble already. And so this, coming on the heels of the other fire at TC, but also being this right here, you know, at that plant that already had violations, they may have to close that plant down. This one, I don't know, because they, like I said, they're in some deep mess already with what they've already been caught doing recently. So I'll hit play here.
We have some bullets maybe from the top of the screen if we can take a quick look at that. But you were saying earlier, you know, that you want to close the doors.
You want to first you want to bring everyone inside. Sure. So bring your family, bring your pets inside as well. Don't forget your dog outside. You want to lock your doors and close your windows,
violations,
air
I think,
vents,
is what
and
he put.
fireplace dampers. And that is key because also they suggest turning
Can you
off
hear
your fans
this lady
and air
talking right
conditioning and forced air heating systems. We know that the 2 school districts there that are sheltering in place have done that, turned off their HVAC units because you don't want to circulate any potentially bad, harmful, hazardous air into the school. Go into an interior room that has few windows if that is possible, and of course, you know, be prepared to improvise and use what you have on hand. If you can seal any gaps that you may have between the doors, you want to create a barrier basically between yourself inside and any sort of exterior contamination. So
they're talking about sealing up your house and stuff. Like all of a sudden, like you're gonna drive to Home Depot and get out. Look, isolate yourself from the problem. Go to Dallas.
Of their doors, if like in our first house, there's a good gap at the bottom of those doors. It can be a little drafty sometimes. That's probably wise as well. And you're looking at a video taken a little bit earlier of the fire, and man, boy, is that those are some dramatic images of the flames and the smoke and, you know, the melted steel.
I'm gonna pause this and I'm gonna show this real quick. This is just one part of a massive square fire here that the whole thing melted down. Look at the size of this pickup truck. A person would be the size of that door. The flames here are 20 feet to there. That tower is probably about 75 feet tall. Okay? Flames are licking up about 75 feet. You don't want to be nowhere in there. They were running, but it's the chemicals they were running from, not just the fire. It's very dangerous. That's what they teach you. Run.
Around the fire. The school districts that are sheltering in place now are
Sheldon ISD, Crosby ISD, and there were 2 more schools that were within Channelview ISD, Rhodes School, and then a second school, and unfortunately I am having trouble recalling the second Channelview ISD school that is sheltering in place. Obviously it's one in that area, and it sounds like the shelter in place is going to remain for now. I know a lot of parents are obviously concerned. We saw Janelle Bluto speaking to parents who are coming to pick up their kids from pre-K, which is released right about now, but they are not letting kids out of schools in the area just yet.
They're not letting them out.
When we see this big thick plume of smoke, we're so worried about, of course, the air quality.
There'd be some people going to jail coming to get their kids for real, man. They better let them take their kids. I mean, they'd be going crazy. Don't even know.
Going on, it can be extremely alarming.
They're gonna have to let them parents take their kids.
You just looked out your window and this is what you saw, and now you're trying to get some information. This is what we can tell you at this point. Most of that smoke is traveling from the northeast region. Now, this is in Crosby, and it's heading towards this southwest portion of Harris County.
See
so
those
you're going to see that
air conditioning units?
The lower levels of the atmosphere.
That looks like about a 6-pack.
2,500 to 4,500 feet. Could be traveling as high as about 5
1, 2,
to
3, 4, 5,
7,000
6,
feet
7, 8.
because we are dealing with clear skies and mostly calm winds. So you're not getting a big shift or a big push with these winds, but some light mixing at the lower levels of the atmosphere. Let me show you the wind direction. If you're just catching up with us here, let me give you a different perspective so you can kind of see where we're talking about from Crosby. Again, most of the winds out of the northeast pushing most of that smoke between about 2,500 to 4,500 feet towards more of the southwest.
Yeah, that's 2,500, 4,500
Harris
feet. It's
County.
going to drop down tonight to about a 1,000-foot ceiling.
Earlier this morning, an air quality alert was already issued. That's because with clear skies and calm winds, you naturally see added ozone particles. You naturally see that because we don't get a lot of mixing with these calm winds. You add additional smoke in there, we could start to see this air quality rise. At this point, all we've heard is moderate levels, and that would impact more of our sensitive groups.
Moderate
so
levels,
that category
nothing.
that includes asthma, emphysema,
those kind of chemicals get in through your skin,
illness,
and they give you marrow problems later,
well.
and
because we
you
are
don't
talking
even know
about
it.
temperatures that are comfortable, turn off the air conditioning if you can. Limit any
Turn off the air
circulation
conditioner
of
in
outside
Texas.
air that could potentially impact you or your family. Now, the shelter in place is really only for about a mile radius of where you see the smoke coming up from the explosion. But really, I'm talking to any residents here from Harris, Brazoria, or Galveston County, guys, just because we are dealing with an air quality alert already.
Thank you very much, Cheetah.
All right, let's just break this down real quick. Let's break this down. That's a good thing to leave it on. That looks like it's breathable air, right, people? Okay, so check this out. Okay. What they're admitting to so far is isobutalene. We're going to look it up in the book. Let's check this out. What would happen if it was just isobutalene and if it was just a small, say, truck amount of it, which is still a lot. Let's get real with this stuff. Because the reporters on the scene, even in the shelter in place, are out there standing in open air like they don't have a clue what's going on. That don't make no sense. Let's give you some real intel. Let's see here. That's 2004. I'm looking for something real quick here. I can use this. This is the newer one. I don't even like cracking it. I like the old book. Okay. So, I'm gonna need a flashlight. Yeah. Let's turn this up for a second. A little bit of tunes here. I'm gonna look for something real quick, and then I'm gonna give you what is in the actual book of what you're supposed to do in the event of an emergency here. Any kind of a leak, especially a fire. Fire compounds it. Go and give you some intel. All right. Alright. Now I'm going to tell you something when you go to look this up, because there's also, this is why I said you spelled it correctly. It's very important that you spell these things correctly. It can make the difference in life and death, okay? So JD, you did good on you know, isobutalene, because there's also a few other words that are similar to it that have different guide responses, like isobutane, isobutane mixture, isobutane, isobutanol, isobutyl acetate, isobutyl acetate stabilized, isobutyl alcohol, isobutyl aldehyde, let's see, isobutylamine, which is close to it, isobutyl chloroformate, which could be something that would cause if it mixes with chlorine and bonds, is isobutyl chloroformate. That's what I was talking about. Okay, different guide too. So once these, you know, chemicals mix together, that's why you need to have what is in all these chemicals, so you know, well, what do they form and what is that response and what does that do, right? Okay. And then there's the isobutylene, which is guide 115, okay? And then there's another isobutylene with a different number. And then there's isobutyl formate, which could be something that two chemicals could cause, and isobutyrate. You know what I mean? And then isobutyl isocyanate. You know, there's a lot of this. Isobutyl methacrate, stabilized. You know, I'm not going to get into all this stuff. And then, of course, isobutyric acid and isobutylride, you know, propionate. Yeah, I'll just read just what is isobutyl. Very important that you know the difference, though. So, okay, I'm going to get the guide number for isobutylene is 115. So you go from there to the response book in the orange section, and you go to 115 of what you need to do in the event of a spill or a fire involving even just a truckload, not just a chemical plant, but just a truckload of this stuff. We're going to read a little bit. Okay, because I can't really show you on here, you wouldn't be able to see it. Okay, guide 115, you wouldn't be able to read it, but it says extremely flammable. We'll go from there. All right, extremely flammable will be easily ignited by heat, sparks, or flames. So just the heat alone or any sparks can make it go up. Will form explosive mixtures with air, okay, and other chemicals going up, you know. Vapors form, vapors from liquefied gas are initially heavier than air and spread along ground. That's why it's dangerous, why they had to get out of there, okay. Caution, hydrogen, deuterium, hydrogen refrigerated liquid, and methane are lighter than air and will rise. Hydrogen and deuterium fires are difficult to detect since they burn with an invisible flame. Did y'all hear that? Kind of like alcohol. Use an alternate method of detection: thermal camera, broom handle, etc. So you stick a broom handle out and see if the broom handle catches on fire, right? I've got a heat gun, is what I call it. I've got a thermal, a non-contact thermal device, non-contact thermometer. That's what I was walking around checking brake shoes and drums with, instead of the back of my hand to see if they're hot. That I did a video on that. I'll put a link up to that. All right, you can get one of them at Harbor Freight, Vance Auto Parts, anywhere. Non-contact thermometer. It's a laser. All right, beats a broom handle. You're too close. If you're using a broom handle, you're breathing in the gas. Let's see. Vapors may travel to source of ignition and flashback, so they can go out and come back like a crack the whip effect. Okay. Cylinders exposed to fire may vent and release flammable gas through pressure relief devices. In other words, the heat might affect the pressure relief and pop them off. Containers may explode when heated. That's what happened. Ruptured cylinders may rocket. Well, that's a different issue. That's for smaller. So, let's go to health. Vapors may cause dizziness or asphyxiation without warning. With no warning, okay, you will get dizziness or asphyxiation, which means you can't breathe. If you can't breathe, you die. Okay, some may be irritating if inhaled at high concentrations. Yeah, no doubt. Contact with gas or liquefied gas may cause burns, severe injury, and or frostbite, because it's a flash frozen. It's kind of like when you in science class you put the rose in the liquid stuff and it, you know, turns, it can be shattered, it freezes. All right. Fire may produce irritating and or toxic gases. Toxic. Does that look toxic? I don't know. What do you think? Toxic, right? Okay. So, let's see what we got here. Public safety. Call emergency response telephone number on the paper. Yeah. Okay. As an immediate precautionary measures, isolate spill or leak area for at least 100 meters, 330 feet. That means get off the plant in all directions. Keep unauthorized personnel away, which means reporters on the scene. Stay upwind. Many gases, actually upwind, not where you think is upwind, actually upwind. Okay. Many gases are heavier than air and will spread along the ground and collect in low or confined areas. Sewers, basements, tanks. Just like the other stuff over at ITC. Keep out of low areas. Protective clothing. Wear positive pressure, self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA. scuba. That means not just a gas mask. You need your own oxygen, because there's no oxygen to be had in this stuff. Any of it, even low-lying stuff, even with the gas not on fire. This has not even got into fire yet. This is just leaks. Okay. Structural firefighters' protective clothing will only provide limited protection. Always wear thermal protective clothing when handling refrigerated cryogenic liquids. I told you they had coolers there, right? That's cryogenic. Fire. If tank, rail, or tank truck is involved in a fire, isolate for 1,600 meters, 1 mile, in all directions. Also, consider initial evacuation for 1,600 meters, 1 mile, in all directions. They are supposed to what? Everybody say it with me. Starts with an E, ends with evacuate. Right? Starts with E, ends with evacuate. Can anybody tell me? Evacuate. Okay. Now, on a fire, that's just on a leak. On a fire, it's worse. Okay. So, let's see here. Do not extinguish a leaking gas fire unless the leak can be stopped. Caution: hydrogen, deuterium, and hydrogen refrigerated liquid, hydrogen and methane mixture. See, they're not telling us what's in there, so we have to look at the worst case scenario of those things, what they're saying there. Maybe invisible flame. Okay, invisible flames, some of it. Alright. On a small fire, dry chemical or CO. Large fire, water spray or fog. That's what they're trying to do. Move containers from area if you can do it without risk. Fire involving tanks. Alright. Fight fire from maximum distance or use unmanned hose holders or monitor nozzles. Cool the containers with flooding quantities of water, they're trying to do that, until well after the fire's out, because it might flash back up. Do not direct water to the source of the leak or safety devices. Icing may occur. Okay. Withdraw immediately in case of rising sound from venting safety devices or discoloration of tank. If the tank changes color, you're supposed to withdraw. Always stay away from tanks engulfed in fire. For massive fire, use unmanned hose holders or monitor nozzles. If this is impossible, withdraw from the area and let the fire burn, because it's that dangerous to you. Alright, so on first aid, here's what you're supposed to do. I'm jumping to this, okay? By the way, it says do not touch or walk through spilled material, of course. All equipment used when handling the product must be grounded. Yeah, you got to ground it. You know, no smoke and flames. Let's see. Stop leak if you can do so without risk. I think that's what that guy was trying to do when he died. That's just my opinion. That's complete opinion. Okay, and the other two probably got him out of there. If possible, turn leaking containers so that gas escapes rather than liquid. Let's see. Do not direct water at spill or source of leak. Let's see. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and go. It says isolate area until gas is dispersed, because the gas is still around. Alright, on first aid, move victim to fresh air, call 911 or emergency medical service, give artificial respiration if victim is not breathing, administer oxygen if breathing is difficult. The people are going to need oxygen from that plant, likely. Remove and isolate contaminated clothing and shoes. Take their clothes and shoes off of them, because it's just going to give them more gas, you know. Clothing frozen to the skin should be thawed before removed, or it'll rip your skin right off. So, in case of contact with liquefied gas, thaw frozen parts with lukewarm water. Okay, that's what you do. You pour some water on them and then you take the clothes off. In case of burns, immediately cool affected skin for as long as possible with cold water. Do not remove clothing if adhering to skin. Like I said, warm water, any kind of, even temperature water, doesn't matter. Pour it on there, it'll thaw that stuff, then you take their clothes off. Keep victim warm and quiet. So at that point, they may go into shock if they're not kept warm. You're going to want to cover them back up with a blanket, at least. More clothes. somewhere else. Let's see. Ensure that medical personnel are aware of the materials involved and take precautions to protect themselves. That means know that it could be on the shoes, it could be on the pants. That stuff can freeze burn your hands as soon as you touch it. Even though it's a liquid and it's outside of that cooling, whatever, it stays cool on its own. Okay. It's just like when you're trying to fill up a lighter with that pressurized butane or whatever that stuff is. It'll freeze you. So I'm gonna hit play real quick.
And if you are just joining us, we have been monitoring a breaking news situation out of Northeast.
Basically, 1 mile.
This is going to be in Crosby. If you're
1 mile, it says evacuate.
Video of a chemical plant fire.
But they say shelter in place.
This is going to be on Ramsey Road.
Who's right?
Shelter in place has been issued for 1 mile. A radius
Who's right?
Around that facility.
Anybody? You know.
There's been 1 fatality. And
it's the book. It's not me.
3 injuries.
The book.
There has also been word that 1 person has been unaccounted for. We're trying to figure out if that may be the person who died in this fire.
I feel bad for the family of them people that got affected, and for the firefighters involved too.
All of this happened about 10:30 this morning. A huge explosion.
Now, it happened at 10:30, but they're still fighting it. They'll be fighting it till tomorrow.
For several
at
miles
least.
Away.
Because now they got the chemical
parents were concerned. They actually
warehouse
drove to their kids' school. They've been waiting in cars outside.
They're waiting outside.
Campuses, hoping to pick up their kids. But that shelter in place has also been issued for Sheldon, for schools over in the Huffman area and the Crosby area. So that has been of concern, as well as 2 campuses in Channel
This
View.
is
that's going to be
always
Dayton
a risk
ISD as well,
and a possibility.
As well
and
as 2 campuses
I'm not trying
in Channel View
to knock
and some other areas
efforts
as well
of people who do this kind of
shelter
job to
in place,
keep
along with
contained
Sheldon and
stuff.
Crosby. So we've got a couple of school districts there, and you can look at the dramatic images there from Air 11. Lynn Cannon joining us now.
Yeah, so this...
Look, I'm not trying to knock the efforts of the people who work in these plants that keep them, because I used to pump them off. I am well aware of keeping them contained. I'm well aware of what they can do, but they do serve us a purpose, you know, in our country to be a product that helps us in our day-to-day lives, and they got to put them somewhere. And I'm not saying that this company, even though they were busted by EPA, OSHA, all this stuff recently for all kinds of stuff, but I will say this: they have got to start using the word evacuate, not shelter in place. They have got to, I mean, you know, they've got to have a plan to evacuate a town if you are a danger to the town. That's all I'm going to say, period. And then you bring them back. No big deal. Yeah, it costs millions and whatever. They don't die later of cancers unless the stuff's in their carpet and whatever. And, you know, at that point, I'd be getting new furniture. I'd just get it. Some of the houses might need to be destroyed over by the ITC place, but they're not going to know to do it. So I'm just saying, there will be independent companies that pop up similar to places that test for radon, and they'll be making money testing people's houses and saying, okay, you know what, you should change this, change that. Yeah, we detected this, or we didn't detect anything. There'll be some companies pop up doing that kind of work, and it'll be the only people telling them the truth about this stuff. So let's see here. Let's see. Oh, really? Okay. JD put get the book, and JD put what the trucker handbook say. Channel 13 News had a list of chemicals earlier today. Chemical listed as from earlier on News 13 in Houston: isobutalene, ethylene, oxypropylene, oxidformalin, ammonia. Oh, ammonia chloride. Oh, Jesus Christ. Ammonia ethyl chloride. Anything ethyl chloride. Oh, God. Okay. Yep, bad stuff right there. Ammonia ethyl chloride. Sulfur dioxide. That ammonia ethyl chloride, people, I told you my friend died from methyl ethyl chloride. Adding ammonia to ethyl chloride. Oh, man. I don't even want to go into that. I'll write them down in a second, but okay. Humble put, yeah, I bet those tanks are old too. Humble put, teach the word evacuate in both English and Spanish. Yeah. Let's see. I knew it was going to be bad for all the information we had. Yeah, man, I'll be honest with you, I don't know every single word in Spanish. I don't know if evacuate is the same as like evacuation, or how they change that, but I will say this. Está un problema aquí en la planta, y está los chemicals, la chemicales aquí no está bien, y esta muerte. Esta muerte está muy mal, no es seco, es mojado. Necesito, te vamos por mínimo una milla, o yo hablo 4 millas, pero está un problema porque está una shelter in place. Está un problema porque la people aquí hablar, necesito, te no vamos, y vamos en su casa, y no necesito la air conditioning, la AC, porque está muy mal chemicales aquí, te vamos en su casa, ok. Pero yo hablar de, yo soy una persona de yo vamos. Yo no vivo allá, pero está, por mí, no está una pregunta. Esta verdad de yo soy probable, vamos. Fuentes, la shelter in place está fin. That's the best I can do for some Spanish right now on this, because I haven't even wrote anything down. It's just off the top of my head. Let's see what we got here. Let's see here. JD put, I knew it was going to be bad for all the information we had. JD put, hoses are too far away, it will spread. Well, the thing is, it's already got to the one thing they didn't want it to get to, was that warehouse, and that's bad news. Firefighters may abandon. If they do, it is game over. They may withdraw. They're not going to abandon it. But the problem is that warehouse, with those chemicals in that warehouse, and what you just said about it being ethyl chloride mixture of anything, but you said ammonia, and it's just ethyl chloride. And either way, ethyl chloride, anything ethyl chloride is so deadly it's not even funny. I'm gonna write this down, what you said here. I'm gonna check into that. Let's see, 13 Houston. I gotta write that down. I'll play this while I'm doing my stuff.
For about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours plus, that we first got word about this explosion. Again, as Sherman just said, there was one fatality. There are at least a couple of other people injured, and 2 people were life flighted, we are told, out of this facility, this Kmco chemical plant. And so it reminds us of just how inherently risky these plants can be. This is the second time in 2 weeks we have seen this kind of event happen. Of course, we just spent
I told you, hey, I want to say something. JD, before you made this comment on here that I'm writing down right now, I told you a little while ago, I said on this live that they're not telling it, but probably in that warehouse is oxidizers, okay? And likely something with chlorine, because I know how these little places use those chemicals and stuff for that. And then you put this comment that said ethyl chloride, that's a chlorine, that's what I'm talking about, a chloride. And then you put oxide, ethylene oxide, oxidizer, gives oxygen and can make a rapid burn, and then they react. That's what I was talking about. This is like their worst nightmare as far as that building right there. The rest of it may not even be as bad if it burns, but anything chloride, man, if you have any kind of chloride leak, which once you catch that stuff on fire, it makes it like almost like a chloride gas leak. That's why they're saying minimum 1 mile. It's one of the strongest guides in that book that I just read. So thank you for that comment. I'm writing it down now, but I told it earlier that it'd probably something chloride, probably something oxidizer. I didn't know it was these, and that ethyl chloride, man, that is the devil. If the devil drank coffee, it would be in his coffee. I need to say that. Let's see, isobutalene, ethylene oxide, propylene oxide. Let's see. Formalin, I'll hit display again.
ITC facility in Deer Park. Fortunately, there were no fatalities, but here we've got one fatality, and now all the questions are about what's in the air.
And ammonia is bad stuff
burning,
too.
And what problems will it pose for the
ethyl chloride? I can't believe it's ethyl chloride.
Trying to sort that out. I'm sure
Jesus
Harris County
Christ.
officials are going to be all over this because they've just done the drill. And TCEQ and everybody will be checking into this to monitor air quality, etc.
Yeah, in fact, TCEQ does have a team.
I'm gonna say this too.
If they've arrived.
Even though these chemicals cause problems like cancer later and stuff like this, that isobutylene itself, but that ethyl chloride and ammonia of any amount and sulfur dioxide will affect you like instantly and so bad, and that stuff is so deadly it's not even funny. You get enough of that, you're not going to go to the hospital. You're going to be on the way to the hospital. So let's see here, and I got a couple of comments here. Let's see. Not sure why more people are not here. This is breaking news. Sure, you are the only one live now. I tried to post it here, but it won't let me. Okay. Let's see here. 14 minutes 40 seconds into the latest live stream in the list. I tried to post it now. ABC 13 Houston. You think I should jump over to ABC 13 Houston? Is that what you're saying? I can do that, no big deal. Let's see if they have it on here. Give me just a second. I'm going to play this and I'm going to try to find that on my other device.
To assess the situation. Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez also on the scene. They have a staging area just outside the plant. He has been actively tweeting from the scene, and this is the latest tweet. He says, Crosby plant fire, preliminary information. Isobutalene initially started fire and is burning. First responders trying to contain the fire.
Tweet.
1 confirmed deceased at the scene. 2 have been life-flighted in unknown condition. So that has been sort of, in terms of the injuries and the fatalities, consistent with what we have been hearing. But we do now have a chemical. We know what is burning now, and we'll be taking a look at what that is.
A
This
chemical.
Is a chemical plant fire. And our Adam Bennett has been at that staging area. He's actually been able to speak to 2 employees who are at the plant.
Reminds me you need to make a mod. Mods can add links.
Let's take a listen at that interview.
I can't do it while I'm on this device and not on this computer. I need to do that.
Actually at the plant. Yeah, we're actually at the plant. There was somewhat of an evacuation, but nothing was really said. There was no alarms that went off. And,
no alarms went off.
I see all the water kick on from like the control units, and it just ignited. The tank fucking blew. I'm sorry, guys.
It's alright, dude. Same way as switches.
Nothing was said to us about it.
What kind of chemicals are normally stored at that site?
It's really like a storage facility, so it can be anything. So, benzene, gasoline, brake fluid. Brake fluid is flammable.
I told you brake fluid.
You can do anything. Caustic, sulphur.
Caustic? Oh my god. And sulphur.
Most of us were walking towards the parking lot. But,
and brake fluid.
Honestly, we were all right there.
That caustic is the devil, and sulphur is that bad too.
Like, these guys were only a little over 100 feet away at the time. But, there's a lot going on.
Man.
Having a little bit of trouble there, some technical difficulties. Our signals freezing from time to time.
Yeah, signals freezing. They shut you down because he was telling the chemicals in that place.
Probably a lot of activity going on right now
in
that immediate area.
Brake fluid, caustic, and sulphur. Tell us all about it, dude. Let us know what to protect ourselves from.
We had been noting, there seemed to be
who else is going to get that? I bet you they cut that out of this whole thing.
At least, most recently we have seen. So, can't tell if there was one large initial fire and then, you know, the flames kind of were beaten down in the middle, or if there were two separate ignition points.
That caustic,
but that was Justin in.
If that caustic affects you, even if it's in the air, I would guess it would be the same. But you can use white vinegar to wash your skin, and it makes caustic inert. So like I was saying before, other than gas mask and all that kind of stuff, one thing you can do to wash certain chemicals, not all, but certain chemicals off your skin, is white vinegar. So yeah, you might smell like a pickle, but you'd be alive and it would affect you less later, that kind of thing. But you can't get it out of your lungs, and once it's in your skin, it gets in and it eats your marrow, these other things. Not necessarily these chemicals at this plant. Definitely the ones at that other plant. I'll have to look at these right here, so see what kind of carcinogen they are. But they all chemicals that's more than 2 bonds is a carcinogen.
Employee of Kmco,
I'm looking on that on my other device right here. I'm looking on that.
When Adam was interviewing him, and he had been telling us that was kind of interesting because it is a chemical plant, because there are tremendous security concerns. All the gates are locked, and so when they were told to evacuate, people were running out. At least in Justin's group. And they weren't able to get out because the gates were locked. They actually had to climb underneath the fencing to get out, which they did. Another individual that Adam had interviewed,
no, they got locked.
They were
cut the lock,
looked like maybe a more of a work crew of some sort. They actually had tools with them, so they cut the lock off of the gate, just severed it clean off, opened the gate, and then walked out. We also, of course, have live
which helps firefighters to get in there
facility,
since they cut that lock.
Look at this image. This may be Janelle Bluta's camera. She is been at a nearby kindergarten under shelter in place.
A nearby kindergarten.
Supposed to actually be
not today.
Yeah, they were supposed to be released before the noon hour, if I remember correctly, and there is a long line of worried moms and dads and grandparents
outside breathing that mess because they can't get their kids. This is not a good plan, people. Keeping kids in a school, parents outside, but they say shelter in place, but the parents are outside.
4 ISDs were
it's not a good plan.
Now I've been told to shelter in place indefinitely until we figure out how they're doing in terms of fighting the fire. We heard the Harris County Sheriff Gonzalez mention what was burning. Isobutalene is what he called it, correct?
I think it was
isobutalene, dude.
Isobutalene. Okay, so isobutalene, as I go check it out, it is a
go check it out.
Flammable gas.
Go check it out.
Whether it is toxic, but it is.
He don't know if it's toxic.
Odorless, hydrocarbon of industrial significance is how it is described, and not unusual, I'm sure, for a plant like this. But that is exactly what is burning. We will have to get an expert to kind of fill us in.
No, it's unusual in your kindergarten.
On what the risk could be for
share
this,
it again. Appreciate it, JD.
Of chemical that is burning. We heard Cheetah earlier talk about the fact that the weather is cooperating because with no winds, very few winds, I should say, and the smoke continuing to rise. And we noticed this at Deer Park at that fire, that as long as the smoke is rising and there isn't rain to bring it down, then it's better.
Oh, it's going to come down in black dust, or it's going to come down in black rain.
In terms of air quality, remember we talked at Deer Park about, well, today it's going to be 4,000 feet or 5,000 feet, and at night it could drop because of the change at night.
Moisture in the atmosphere.
It could be 100 feet.
Could drop to 500
and push it all down to the ground.
Here we're going to the very same drill, and we'll see exactly.
Same drill, and then they go to the hospitals, and then bleeding from the noses.
The exact nature, we're saying isobutalene, but the risk, is it a carcinogen?
I'm going to tell you something.
Toxic, we don't know. We're going to have to check that out.
Is it carcinogen or is it toxic? They know full well. Let me tell you something, people. When these gases come down to the ground, this fire here, because it's so many other different chemicals too, but this fire here, the smoke could even be worse on the effects of people than the other place. And it's I mean, you got this whole rail of tank cars right here too, a whole line of tank cars, but tank rail cars, but as long as, even if it stays where it's at, this smoke being such a dirty burn and it not going up as high and being burn off, like it's not like a gasoline component that even will burn most of it. This is the kind of stuff that even lingers a lot. it could be worse than the other fire for people. It really could be. Let's see. Looks like a close-up of the Death Star, just saying. Yeah, they got some stuff going on down there. The people are running. The people who work there left, man. They run. They left. They're like, we're out of here. Forget about checking out, and here's my gate pass and whatever. They were dipping any direction upwind they could. And that's what you're supposed to do. But they said there was no sirens. That's odd. You know, evidently, I guess they have monitors. I don't know where the data went. You know, whatever. So, yeah, I'm gonna play this some more. I'm still looking on. I'm gonna look on the other.
In the meantime, our Janelle Bluda, she has actually moved from
Houston
her location
13.
at the kindergarten. I think she's gone a little bit further back. Yeah, Janelle, what can you update us with?
Hey guys, yeah. So we're probably about 3 miles now away from
3 miles.
That fire, so we're definitely
Why is
outside
she
of
3
that
miles?
shelter-in-place zone. This is what we're looking at
Because
here.
she's
You
smart.
can see the smoke
I'd be 4 miles, but
from
3
what
miles
we were
is
looking
good.
at out here earlier, it's a lot less smoke than we saw, but we have seen it kind of go away, kind of come back. It's drifted back and forth. So clearly still burning. We're not sure exactly to what extent from where we can see right now, but it's a lot quieter out here than this is where we first came earlier. I don't know if you guys remember, there's cars going back and forth, lots of people stopping to take pictures. A lot quieter out here now. So we were closer earlier.
All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pause this for a sec. I want to check something out real quick.
We don't make money on oil changes.
I gotta see something real quick.
There's a reason.
And while I do, I'm gonna set up the Bluetooth on this, and we're gonna listen to KHOU. It's mainly about the audio anyways. Auxiliary Bluetooth. We're gonna set this up Bluetooth, and I'm gonna play that 13 news. They have a newer one. Let's see what we got here. Bear with me, people. Let's see here. Bear with me. Because I want to show this other news place real quick, but I got to set up the audio. Bluetooth. Turn that on. Connecting. Waiting. Let's get this connected. It says connected, and then go down to music here real quick. Let's get the audio going on this. Okay, here we go. I know there's some people in the room right here, and I'm fixing to get to it. We're gonna play this. There was one that was streamed an hour ago, 47 minutes ago. Let's go with this. This is a KHOU 13. Stand by for eyewitness news. There may not be any audio on this one yet. We're going to have to see what happens with that one, but it's hooked up. Okay. Okay, now it's giving audio and a little bit of something. We'll do what we can with this. Till I can get the other one going again.
We will have continuing coverage of the Crosby explosion on our website and the ABC 13 News app. And at 3:30, you can see Dr. Con Mayberry. She'll be talking more about some of the chemicals that may have been on this plant and that people might be exposed to.
Let me get the brightness off of this one here. They're live. I'm going to drop the brightness real quick. And then see settings, display, brightness, drop it all the way down to there. Okay, here we go. Okay.
Because of this.
That's right. We've been covering this for a while. Thanks for counting on ABC 13 to bring you the very latest in this Crosby Kmco plant fire. Of course, we'll continue to cover this. More coverage will come on the news at 4. We'll see you then. Thanks for being with us.
More on the news at 4. So it's not going to give, wait, right here. Let's go forward. I see what it's doing. This was 45 minutes ago. Okay, give them a chance to get it up there. That's what I got to do. This is the other one.
So. As we continue to watch the unfolding scene at the Kmco facility in Crosby, Texas. A fire there, Dr. Con Mayberry, that's been burning since just after 11 o'clock this morning. Yeah, and you still have some fairly serious concerns about what's facing both first responders and people in that community.
Right. You know, just because the shelter in place has been lifted, I am really concerned that people will think it's okay to you know, just go back to life as normal, walk around, have their kids play outside. This is really the time to be indoors. Limit your exposure to the outdoor air, because the outdoor air is particularly contaminated with what I don't know, and that's the issue.
And it's not because you haven't done your homework. Right. We don't know because we haven't been told.
Yeah, we don't have the data. We have the, you know.
But I've got some data for you. So the guy in the plant, what he said was this: brake fluid, caustic, sulfur could be mixed in. The news said isobutalene, okay? They also said what could be in there, okay, was ethylene oxide, propylene oxide, formalin, ammonia, ethyl chloride, sulfur dioxide. So, because they have no idea.
Released to us.
We're welcome. On Facebook Live this afternoon, and we want your questions. If you have questions, get them to us now.
I got questions. Why don't you evacuate?
We'll answer as many as we can in the next 31 minutes here before we get Eyewitness News again at 4 o'clock. But get your questions in now, and we will try and answer as many of them as we can. This facility, by the way, out in Crosby, only 2.5 miles from Arkema, a facility that burned during Harvey. We unfortunately saw all the toxic effects there. Only 14 miles from ITC.
Exactly. It's one hit after the other, and these are, you know, it's relatively close proximity, and now the winds are blowing. You know, even though they're relatively calm, they're still blowing the contaminated air here towards that ITC fire facility, which is that's still an active, you know, event, because you still have benzene levels that are, you know, fluctuating up and down as they continue.
Benzene levels, they're admitting to it now.
And what we continue to hear is that the EPA really doing the independent air monitoring this afternoon. Harris County said they were trying to stand up, but the EPA has their plane flying, their bus driving, and we hopefully will get results at some point soon.
Absolutely. I would love to see the results, you know, because that could calm a lot of, you know, fears of potential toxicity.
What they have said is no actionable levels of contaminants have been found. What does that mean?
Well, that means that, you know, where they're taking the samples, they don't see something that's so high that causes them to say, hey, you know, we've got a serious problem. That doesn't mean that the air's clean, though. That definitely does not rule out the possibility that these chemicals are in the air. They're just not at levels where they would take action. And also, I don't know what standards they're looking at when they say that. You know, because a lot of times people look at OSHA standards. Now, OSHA standards are for 8 hours of exposure to a worker. That's not for the general public. And so when I see people citing, you know, oh, 1 ppm, not a big deal for benzene like an ITC, I'm like, wait a minute, that is a big deal. If we're getting this, you know, 24 hours of exposure, you know, that's a maximum exposure for 8 hours for a worker.
Hey,
so
somebody that can add. How about
I'd like to know more about so that I can be more confident in, you know, giving an assessment.
Yeah. Because I think what I hear you saying is the most frequently cited government standards aren't meant for the day when the plant catches fire.
Absolutely not. And, you know, again, the bus is down low.
Fire changes everything.
You've got low level, you know, air, but you've got this plume that's going up. So you've got a lot of chemicals being, you know, basically thrown into the air. You know, a lot of chemical byproducts, a lot of carbon monoxide, a lot of oxygen stealing chemicals, because that's what's fueling the fire. It's pulling out the oxygen from the air. So you've got this reduced oxygen air, you've got these chemicals that are being constantly, you know, thrown up into the air because the fire's not out.
Right.
And so that's what you have to be concerned about. So driving around that area, walking, all exercise practices, all of that stuff should be, you know, canceled. This is the time to plan activities indoors. Let the kids run around indoors, you know, just keep them as calm as possible. if they've been outside, if you've traveled home, take showers, get those clothes off. They've been exposed to this fire because you don't want to cross-contaminate the house. Put them in a bag, isolate them, you know, just keep them out of what you're breathing.
Wash yourself off with vinegar.
That doesn't mean throw them away.
No. I'm just saying isolate them for now. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Wash them later. You just don't want them out in the, you know, we take off our clothes and we just leave them out and put them in a hamper.
Then throw them away.
You know, those chemicals are actually coming off of the air, and they're making your air quality indoors worse. So that's why you want to put them in a bag.
Oh, you put loud.
Yeah. This afternoon, I'm Ted Oberg here in the ABC 13 newsroom with Dr. Noreen Khan-Mayberry, an environmental toxicologist, as we take your questions on Facebook Live about the ongoing incident at Kmco in Crosby, where a fire started just after 11 o'clock and has been burning since. One of the things I wanted to talk about, and you and I have mentioned several times on air, is how would people know if they've been exposed?
You really have to pay attention to symptoms.
Okay, and JD put lady is telling it right. Yes, she is.
You know you've been exposed.
Wash them later, rid them ASAP.
From exposure.
Take them outside of your house.
In the area, again,
keep them for testing.
You know, take precautions,
for proof,
protect your
so you can
skin,
sue later.
skin irritants,
and then
respiratory, lung
use them as
irritants.
Exhibit A,
These
but
are
don't
also
touch them without a
central nervous system
chemical
irritants.
suit on.
So that means that they can be potentially toxic. You know, you could feel dizziness, you could feel runny nose, you could have a sore throat, you could have a headache. So pay attention to everything. Don't just shrug it off as
your body's giving you signals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One worker died
at
that plant.
That way, don't just go to sleep and hope it goes away tomorrow.
Yeah, don't go to sleep. Hey, here's a thought. One worker died. What would they tell him he was supposed to do? You know, in the event that he's dying, what was he supposed to do? Take his clothes off and throw them. I mean, you know, this is what's going on, people. You know, it's dangerous stuff.
So do that.
Get out of there. It's called evacuate.
Julie writes in, says, remember in the ITC fire, they said the smoke was going up, so there's no danger. Well, the smoke continues to go up today. The winds are light. Does that mean there's no danger?
You know, we literally refer to that black
it goes
smoke
to the ground.
as toxic smoke because we know that the particles are toxic. I talked about pyrolysis products. You know, when people die in house fires, it's generally not because they've been burned.
Yeah,
it's
one
because
worker's
of smoke
unaccounted
inhalation.
for.
Those very, very small particles,
one.
They produce what's called pyrolysis products. So as plastics burn, so as chemicals burn, those tiny particles get really deep into the airways, and they cause people to, unfortunately, you know, have very strong toxic effects and unfortunately fatalities.
In a minute, I'm going to get into some of the exact chemicals we know have been or are on the site. We'll talk about that in just a sec. Let me just take a couple questions, and some of them are all right. There have been all kinds of smells coming from that area. It depends where the wind blows, writes in Helen Sanders. Smell is a good indication because some of these have no smell.
Some of these have no smell, so your nose and your lungs should not be the detectors. Those are not the chemical detectors. If you're smelling it, get out of the area, isolate yourself. You know, you're getting an exposure if you're smelling it.
Yep. Let's see. Someone says, I live a mile from this facility. We do know that this afternoon, the only shelter in place that remains is for a mile.
That woman sounds like me
immediately around the facility. What should those people be doing this afternoon?
Turn off your air conditioning. Seal the doors and windows. Do not go outside as the sun goes down, because the air quality actually gets worse as the sun goes down. You've got those chemicals that are might be heavier that'll settle to the bottom. Again, not knowing what chemicals, I have to assume the worst.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to be unnecessarily exposed.
Take out those contact lenses.
Eric writes in, is this a chemical or a petrol tank? I'm so sad people were hurt. We should point out one person lost their life in the initial explosion. Two people life-flighted in critical condition.
Exactly. I have, this takes me back to, when I worked in a refinery laboratory and we sheltered in place because we had an explosion and we also had a colleague to die. So, I mean, I totally sympathize. I've been there.
Yeah, and it's hard. We heard some of these people who work at the facility saying this morning that their coworkers said, hey, there's a leak, it's time to get out.
Yeah.
And then a couple of them had to cut their way out of this facility with grinders and underneath fences. Could you imagine?
I can't imagine, because you're supposed to have adequate protection in place. But when there's an explosion, it doesn't matter how much personal protective equipment, if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, unfortunately, that's why this is very dangerous work.
Yeah. Oh, and no doubt. And for people who had to cut themselves out, this is a plant that has a history with OSHA. You have to imagine OSHA will take a look at that. That is not the way people should have to react in a fire.
No, there's supposed to be exits and safe places to gather and all that stuff.
I lose words thinking about, the fact that they knew that they had these hazards in place. They've been cited and they didn't do better to correct them.
I'm outside the 1 mile radius. Do I need to keep my pets inside?
I absolutely would keep pets indoors because pets are what we call oronasal breathers. You know, they breathe through their nose and mouth, panting open, and so they get a hot.
I'm gonna say something. The 1 mile is an immediate response. Then you're supposed to go like 4 to 5 miles. 1 mile is just, and it's not supposed to be shelter in place. It's supposed to be evacuate. And JD put humble put take out those contact lenses. I would imagine it would be helpful to do that, but I still have some glasses to look. And then JD put, damn, they had to cut their way out. Yeah, you're supposed to have marked exits, all kinds of gates and stuff, and you're supposed to be able to get out. And there's supposed to be a place where they all meet, like a meeting place. One will be north, one will be south, one will be east, one will be west, where everybody will meet up, and they'll say, hey, go to the east, whatever, and they're supposed to know and practice the evacuation plan. This place is a little bit off kilter anyways, because they're in trouble with the EPA for everything they're already doing, probably OSHA too. Now they're going to have to answer to OSHA. So JD put, yeah, they are telling it like it is. Yeah, pretty much. That woman is a doctor. She's not going to lie. And then Humble put, earlier today, it took a while, like an hour, to get the owner to release the list of chemicals in that plant. Yeah, and then I'm looking at what that guy said. He said it could be anything, and he said caustic, brake fluid, and sulfur. The guy that works there. I'm like, caustic? Whoa. So yeah, it's bad stuff. I'm going to be able to get off this thing pretty soon here. I'm going to be on here for a few more minutes, but I wanted to make you guys understand that this is an ongoing thing. It's going to go for a couple days at least. I would stay away from there. I wouldn't go and sleep in other truck stops near there. I still wouldn't even go around Houston in the area of Deer Park. They're still cleaning up off the water, and there's still benzene levels that are, you know, bumping up and down and stuff. And then they say, oh, we detected something that was way off the chart, but then it went down, so it should be okay. It must have been a small area. That's crazy. Thousands of tons, metric tons of that stuff got loose. Now this is going to be worse, because it's like, you know, gassing people again. And then tomorrow morning my kids' nose are bleeding, and this is going on with the, you know, people in my family, and we're all going and we're needing help. And well, they're setting up places. Look, they need to start using the word evacuate. It's not that big a deal, just get out, you know. But this shelter in place legally makes it to where you're supposed to shelter in place, you know. And I'd be wrong to go against any law, but I'm telling you, when they release them kids, man, from that school, I don't think them parents are going to want to stay. And they'll sit out there all night if they have to, and that's going to cause its own issue. So it's going to get worse as the night goes on. The best thing to do, I would think, is they need to change the shelter in place. They need to let them people loose, let them parents take their kids, and advise them to leave, vamos, you know. So anyways, I'm gonna play the audio on this one down here again with the doctor finishing up.
They sniff the ground. You know, I definitely would keep pets indoors. I don't know how far she is.
But you gotta wash your pets.
It's kind of hard to answer that. Is she 50 miles away? Is she 20 miles? Yeah.
Let's give people a range. So, 1 mile away for sure. 5 miles away?
I would say yes, in a 5 mile radius.
10 miles?
5 miles.
Starting
10
to
miles,
lose it.
you start to, you know, be okay. But again, when you look at the wind patterns and you see where the smoke is blowing,
10 miles, you start
really
to be
where
okay.
You should, you know, be most concerned.
And I believe Rachel.
Okay, check this out. We got to get that on here, and I got to get on that live, because she's saying 10 miles is where you start to be okay. That's about where I'm at. So she's saying 4 miles, 5 miles, and then she's like 10 miles is where you start to be okay. So that's a 10-mile circle around this mess. I'm gonna have to show it up on this screen up here, and I'm gonna get working on that. So we'll play this real quick, and then we'll go back to it.
This afternoon, it says the wind remains out of the north.
Right.
They're way
so
better
north
on this.
Of this facility. Chances are
I'm liking
the
this
smoke
channel.
and toxins are not headed your way.
They're not. It looked like they were kind of going southeast.
South and southwest, yes,
southwest,
I think. Yeah.
Okay.
And so, as a Houstonian, Evelyn Cooper writes in, said, something's wrong. Too many plants are blowing up. Right. This does seem like a high number of them to be having this conversation with you yet again within a month.
Yes, exactly. You know, again, you know, when ITC happened, when Arkema happened, you know, one of the first things I was questioning was how old are these tanks? A lot of these tanks are well past their life expectancy. These chemicals, as you continue to use them over and over,
old tanks.
The interior walls of these tanks, they are not as strong as they once were. That's why they do have a lifetime. So if you've got tanks that are, you know, past 20 years, 30 years old, that are there like you had at ITC, that you have around the ship channel area, this is a problem. This is why tanks should be replaced.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we know from past practice is that OSHA is woefully understaffed here.
Right.
There may be a dozen inspectors in the North Houston office.
Right.
They simply cannot visit all of the facilities on a regular basis. And if there are problems that
they need to hire
this
some
is
people.
when they find out about them.
Exactly. And it's incumbent upon the people who actually run these facilities to make sure that these things are adequate and they are up to date, because again, you not only do you lose you know, productivity and lose your, you know, profitability if you don't do this, but we're losing lives. We don't want to lose people.
Keaton, if we could, let's take a look. By the way, we're taking your questions on Facebook Live, and if you have questions for us here in the newsroom or for Dr. Noreen Kahn-Mayberry, environmental toxicologist, about this ongoing incident at Kmco, please let us know. Let's go back one page, if we could. What we do know from a tweet at about 1:35 this afternoon, this is from Ed Gonzalez, the sheriff. He says, "What I know is a transfer line ignited in the area of a tank with isobutalene, and that tank caught on fire. An adjacent storage building with solid goods also caught fire, trying to contain it." Now, since then, they've had a better handle at containing the fire.
Right.
But what does that tell you? Just that information there.
Yeah, what it tells me is that I'm not sure what
I got it, and I'm gonna pause it on
line.
this.
I don't know how it ignited.
This is what I want to show.
And
they've got comments over here like crazy. I can read some of them in a minute.
Isobutylene, again, relatively
but this is
low
the area
toxicity in normal use, but when it starts to burn,
that
that's
you should be
a different story. That's when
worried
you have,
about as far as what the
you know,
doctor
a
says. So
situation for the central
Newport
nervous system, for the respiratory
Elementary,
system.
Crosby
And
High,
I don't know what's
Crosby
in that,
Middle,
with those
this
solid
whole
goods
circle.
So that storage building
right
with
here.
solid goods,
Lake
that's a
Houston.
real concern.
Sure.
We asked that question at the news conference
second.
before the 3 o'clock hour. What's in that building? They weren't able to tell us.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe that it's taking them this long to tell us what that is.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like
They know
should
what's in
know.
it.
They should know what's in there.
And,
They
and
know
in your
everything
practice,
said
your
what's in it.
history in a petrochemical facility, they didn't.
I know
Yeah,
what's in it.
somebody
You
knows
know
where
what's in it.
everything is. Someone knows
The news
what's
don't
in
know
the
what's in it.
storage facilities, what's in the tanks.
And is the only place that information is kept in the office that they flee from?
No, absolutely not. You know, we have computer systems, so yeah.
Got it. And if we could change the page, here is what we know. Isobutylene,
go to
we
here.
know caught fire, because that
wait.
was what it was in that tank.
That's the list right here.
In white, you see 6 chemicals that are listed in
Okay, isobutylene, ethylene oxide, propylene oxide, formalin, ammonia, ethyl chloride, sulfur dioxide. That's listed in filings.
The company admitted in 2018 it had in significant quantity there.
Yeah.
So
Significant quantity in
what sticks
2018.
out in there? A lot of those chemicals are used.
What
in
sticks out?
the
Ethyl
production
chloride
manufacture
and
of
ammonia.
other petrochemicals, but how dangerous are
And
they?
anything
they're all
oxide.
pretty nasty in terms of being exposed to them when you're not handling them safely. And so when they're being cited for mishandling of these chemicals, I worry about the people who work there every single day. I also worry.
Okay, so Horsefly made this comment too. I won't read this here, in which Humble put too. Let's see here. Okay, Humble put, I'd double that just to be safe. Yeah, the 10 miles. Yeah, I'm always like, I'm a 20 mile, 25 mile kind of person, and then just don't even go there. Humble put, news is never 100%. Yeah, and Horsefly 22 put, I blame it on straight out college placed in high positions with no infield experience. Yeah, people straight out of college. You should see the comments on this up here, because the comments up here were putting, like, it's later in this stream where, like, it's later on in this stream that they make comments on that site, on KHO Houston, okay, 13 Houston News, on the live event here. They've got comments on their comment thread, right? And it's unbelievable. People were putting, there should be an evacuation plan in place. People were locked into the plant. Somebody needs to answer for that, all this other stuff. And then let me see if I can get this to, as far as brightness, to be right. Yeah, it's close enough. you know, it's about it. Maybe it's as good as it's going to get. Let's see. Maybe that's better. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to play this down here audio-wise, and I'm going to catch up with it on the top.
If these are burning, what the exposure is to the greater community. But you know, formalin is formaldehyde. That is a carcinogen. That's a cancer-causing chemical. Ammonia also, you know, strong contact irritant. There are people that are so allergic to ammonia that it is actually it can be fatal for them. Ethylene chloride, sulfur dioxide, ethylene oxide, propylene. All of these are very, very, you know, potentially toxic chemicals if they're being misused, especially if they are, you know, some of the constituents that are being burned at this moment as well.
And we simply don't know. Hopefully, as the afternoon progresses,
and we don't. And we saw ethylene glycol, which is, you know, they're using these base chemicals to make the, you know, the ethylene glycol, which is, you know, antifreeze.
Right. We see that.
Right. Exactly. They probably also make propylene glycol.
That's
ethylene
what I was
glycol
saying,
is the more
glycol,
toxic antifreeze. But propylene glycol, it's also toxic when it's burned. You know, you don't want to use that. And we see it on the ground. We see that bright green on the ground.
Rick Fountain, we're again taking your questions on Facebook Live. Rick writes in, how long does it take for benzene to go through the soil?
Ooh.
It's a tough question.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I mean, you know, it depends on, number one, how much benzene is going through the soil, you know, what type of soil it is, the quality of the soil. So these are things that can be answered. They just can't be answered off the top of my head quickly without, you know, knowing. But I will tell you, if he's concerned about benzene in air, you know, falling to the ground, you know, yeah, that is a concern for plant life, you know. And so benzene will go through the body relatively quickly, which is why if you feel like you've been exposed, you should go get tested right away. But again,
we don't know that benzene was involved here, right?
We don't know that benzene was involved. We just know that from the ITC fire.
Benzene, obviously, the giant concern in the ITC fire a couple weeks ago, when we did look at the toxic inventory of their things that they've been cited for in the past. Benzene relatively low on the things that they have emitted in the past. So there you see on your screen some of the health impacts you were talking about. These are the things to watch out for this afternoon, huh? And we talked about on air, some of this sounds like a pollen allergen, right? Eye irritation, throat irritation, your throat gets a little tight. How do you know it's different than the pollen?
Sure. So, I mean, if you're in a high pollen area and you're having allergies that you've had for the last few days and you have no exposure to this, then it may very well be the pollen. Yes, we have very high pollen exposures. Our cars are covered in it right now. But if you've been exposed, if you're in this 1 to 5 mile radius and you've also been exposed to this and now your symptoms are even more pronounced, you should get it checked out.
Absolutely.
I mean, your body should not be your only indicator of something wrong, but it is definitely a strong indicator when it doesn't like what it's been exposed to.
And you typically know now, or you'll know tomorrow morning when you wake up?
You can, or you may know weeks from now. Again, the problem with the fact that the symptoms are so similar is sometimes people will say, oh, there's nothing wrong with me, it's just my allergies. And again, if you have allergies, if you're taking allergy shots, you are in a sensitive population. We do have one area right now that is showing, you know, orange for a sensitive population. So that means be on alert. So this is something that you need to pay attention to.
Is that necessarily from the fire, or is that sort of I think Rachel said we were in an ozone action day.
We are in an ozone action day, but earlier we didn't have that level. So again, you know, I saw it getting progressively worse.
I'm gonna read a couple of comments that you guys put here too. Let's see. People volunteer to stay, and once you stay, you are locked in, but staff is aware of chance lock-in. Okay, get checked out no matter if you show symptoms, humble put, and then humble put, even if you're not showing symptoms. Yep. Some of these comments up here on this right here too is putting, you know, oh my God, that is not safe, you know, and they always lock the gate behind us, you know, that these people are commenting on here. I don't know why this idiot's out here yelling at his dog. You can't hear it, hopefully. This guy's a real idiot outside my truck. let's see. I'm trying to get. Somebody put, I wonder if Marfugal will cover this tonight on his show. Yeah, they're already bringing up YouTube because people are telling the truth, right? Let's see. On the regular news, talking about YouTube. Let's see. Oh, here we go. This is where I wanted to start reading. They put, people were locked in the plant at first, could not get out. They must sit these people down, shut these people down for this. Not okay. And he put GUR people and shut because he got, you know, auto-corrected. And then they put companies too cheap to get new tanks, so they get old and then boom. Somebody put, when I worked in refineries, they, on turnarounds in Corpus, they always lock the gate behind us, and put, David, that's not safe. Somebody put David. So true, I understand why I didn't agree, because I thought just get a security guard. Yeah, they have to have certain ways out, but let's see. Chemical soap is burning specials from Texas. I don't know what that means. So these people are putting comments on this. Like I said, one of them though, let's see. Play this audio.
As you know, I looked at the various readings, so you don't know. I cannot say yes, it has to do with this fire, but I can't rule it out either.
And how comfortable are you with the ongoing real-time monitoring of our air in the Houston area? Part of the reason I asked, let me just inject this fact.
Right.
The two closest real-time air monitors, one's broken today, and the other only measures ozone, no VOC monitoring or actual chemical monitoring.
Well, from what I understand, they're not actually continuous real-time. What they are is snapshots in real-time. So if you take a snapshot, or you take a sample at 3:46, which it is right now, and then you post that 4 hours later, you know, you've got a snapshot of what happened at 3:46. You don't have a continuous monitor that shows you the levels as they fluctuate as the wind moves. Continuous monitoring is when you have a monitor that reads constantly
all
and
the time.
puts out data.
We don't have that.
No, we don't.
At least not.
No, not across
before
the
something
city.
happens.
Right, exactly. We
and
don't
now
have
they
that.
are deploying resources to
Sure,
the Crosby area
exactly,
to do it.
exactly.
Ted Oberg in the ABC 13 newsroom, joined with Dr. Noreen Khan-Mayberry, an environmental toxicologist. 3:46. This fire has been burning since 11 o'clock this morning.
Right.
If you have questions, get them to on Facebook Live. We're trying to answer as many as we can. Just want to file through a couple of them. Stacy asks, is the fire out? I don't believe it is completely out. The last live shot we saw was about 20 minutes ago. There was still smoke rising from there.
Right.
Some minor fire. As we saw in ITC,
Right.
these are very hard to put out.
Absolutely, and I saw, you know, fires lower to the ground, you know, kind of traveling away from that main fire.
Yeah.
So that could be some of the, you know, chemicals that we saw on the ground that were burning off.
Sure.
You know,
Or
now
any,
I'm closer
any
to timed it, right?
All the pictures you're looking at, by the way, a couple hours old at this point. This is not a live picture.
Right.
Are the schools going to be canceled tomorrow? Asks Lainey.
I don't make that call. I do not make that call, but you know, again, depending upon how long this fire continues to burn, if it gets worse, you know, you have to look at what the data tells you in terms of air quality, and so that they can make a judgment. You know,
we'll have that on our Facebook pages. We'll have that on Eyewitness News tonight at 10 o'clock if that decision is made, and certainly by 4 o'clock tomorrow morning if schools make that decision.
They need to
did
evacuate.
put the shelters in place though before school ended, so parents could pick their kiddos up.
Exactly.
Let's see. I'm 12 miles away. Can I turn my AC on?
Well, you're outside of the 10-mile radius. Yeah, I mean, you can. Especially if you're 12 miles north, you know, because you're not in the
if
area.
You're upwind.
If you're upwind, that's fine. I don't see a problem with that. Yeah.
Rick says, what about the water in the river? The San Jacinto River is close to there. There is a bayou that is close to the facility. It runs through
The
Crosby,
book says evacuate.
River.
That's
At
the
this
book
point, we
right
haven't
there.
heard of any water contamination.
The book says
At this point,
evacuate.
the NTC fire, we didn't hear about any water
Exactly.
contamination.
This is a very active event. We don't know what the containment is. I don't know what they're using to put out the fire. I heard foam earlier. I haven't seen it. Have you seen foam?
One small piece of it, yes. I did see some foam being used.
Well, if there was enough foam, the fire would be out. Yeah. You see how quickly once ITC actually got the right amount of foam in there from that private fire contracting company, the fires were out. We went from 1 tank to 2 tanks to 5 to 8, and then all of a sudden 8 were out. So when you have enough, it's going to be out.
Yeah, and hopefully they've got a handle on this, but we'll see when Sky gets back up in the air and when we have a chance to talk to our crews there. Ashley says, and I think we can all share this emotion, I feel so bad for the families having to get the phone call about their loved ones hurt and one killed. It is a tough thing to hear today, and we didn't hear that in the ITC fire.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's the worst. It's the worst tragedy, you know, when your loved one is not coming home.
Yeah. Sky Eye Live right now, and you can see our live mapping to get a sense of where they are, just passing I-45, leaving the airport where they fueled up, trying to get back to that fire there in Crosby on the north.
Yeah, they're just showing this right here. Anyways, I'm going to pause both of these real quick. They're not exactly timed right anyhow, but I'm going to time them both. Okay, look, check this out. And I'll be getting off this thing in a bit here. I'm going to read some comments. And then Humble put, even if you're not showing symptoms yet. And then Shar S. Goodwin put, absolutely. Humble put, I'm sure channel's gonna scrub comments. Yeah, they're wanting everybody to, they're reading the comments off Facebook. They're not reading them off their own site and these comments here on the live chat. They're only reading off Facebook so they can see who it was. They can go through and they can monitor and they can like not read. He even said a minute ago, he says there's all these comments come in. He's like, and some of them are okay. That's what he said, or like okay to read, you know. Anyways, they're censoring themselves. But then let's see, Shar put, the newscaster should have had a face mask on. He claimed only to smell a little. Yeah, he's gonna probably die later of the effects of that stuff. Humble put, geez, if you gotta ask schools if schools are going to be closed, make your own judgment call. Yeah, I'd be vacationing. Humble put, at Truck and Stuff, they know what's what, they just don't want to be completely forthcoming. Yeah, that's why I went ahead and put those the info back, out about all the chemicals that I wrote down that they've actually let out all these chemicals, this list of this stuff here, like I said, but and looked up the isobutalene, the one that they want to talk about, because it's the worst, and they're supposed to evacuate for that, but they're trying to do this shelter in place crap again. So tomorrow morning there'll be kids with their nose bleeding and they'll be looking for a doctor for sheltering in place, because their house is magical and it keeps bad chemicals out, right? So let's hit play on this for a bit, and I was going to see if I get on that other one too.
Here in just 11 minutes. Julie says our air is toxic every day. What is the everyday concern?
So our air is not toxic every day. There is a potential that our air could be toxic every day. We've got different levels of chemicals, and that is why we do have those snapshot monitors around the city, so that we can say with confidence, okay, we've got this level of chemicals in the air. So they,
I'm about to take off myself here.
They look at a broad spectrum of several volatile chemicals,
yeah, that's what
and they will take a reading every few hours. So again, the dose makes the poison. That it was something we say as toxicologists, and so the dosage is higher right now. So to say, oh, the air is toxic every day is kind of a dangerous statement, dangerous way to downplay what could be a highly toxic situation.
It is.
There's a difference as well in this facility in Crosby. While it is very close to the Arkema fire,
sure,
and close to the Arkema facility, which still isn't operating, by the way.
Exactly.
It is not in the heart of a petrochemical row, right? Yeah. Down in Channelview or LaPorte or Deer Park, there aren't a lot of neighbors right there. In this facility, we heard from one woman early on who was in her backyard, and the explosion knocked her 2-year-old to the ground.
The explosion knocked her 2-year-old to the ground.
How many people live very close to these plants? Yeah. It always scares me, and when I tell people, like, look, if you're finding cheap land, it may not be worth it, because you run this risk that when something happens, it's going to contaminate. It's not just going to contaminate your air or water, but it could actually, cause something as serious as a fatality. I mean, a child being knocked to the ground from the
that is a very serious explosion.
That's a strong force. Yeah.
So let me fire through some of these questions. Will the fire spread to affect other areas? We don't know. Right. That's the best answer we can give you. I'm not going to lie to you. We just don't know.
It's going to burn down that plant, though.
Fire point to point 14 miles. We checked it earlier. Are they still having a baseball game in Channelview? Diane asks. I don't know, but if I hear, I'll let you know. Cheryl says, is the fire out? The fire may be out. We will soon see. Sky Eye there in the big box on your screen headed towards the fire, and we'll see. Another viewer says, I see smoke, but it's not that bad. Certainly a good news. I live 2 miles away. Sort of, we continue to get these, what should I do? I live 2 miles away. I live 7 to 10 miles to the north. Well, the person that's 7 to 10 miles north of the fire is upwind.
Right.
Meaning they're not getting the even if it's going to get to them, the wind is blowing it away from them.
Exactly. So you're okay, but if you're within 2 miles, I would not, I would take precaution for the evening. I would be in.
Humble put, do your research before you move.
It doesn't mean drive away. It doesn't mean go to a hotel. It doesn't mean go to the hill country.
Exactly. I mean, if you want to evacuate and you can evacuate, okay, but get out of there quickly.
Yeah.
But not everybody can do that. No, absolutely not. Not the day to go kick the ball outside. Not the day to run. Not the day to hang out outside. I would take precaution.
Not safe to wear those masks that
nice
we get
place
at Home Depot,
to
or the masks that we have lying
raise a
around from
family
last
and all that.
home paint project.
Can't even go outside.
They do not help. It's a waste of time.
Waste of time. Those paper masks from Home Depot.
And a mask that does help. Very expensive, right?
Very expensive, plus you have to have it properly fitted. You have to go in and get an expert to fit you and make sure you have the right seal, and you have to have the right cartridges on it. I've seen some people earlier with some cartridges that aren't protecting necessarily from these chemicals.
Sure, and it's not an easy thing to figure out.
It's not, no.
Yeah. Stephanie asked a question that we all wish we could answer. Why
not
does
the
this
day
keep
to be in
happening? It's
Houston.
the third one in a span of 3 months.
Anywhere
I think
around
it's
there.
probably actually the third one, and a lot less than
well,
that.
This is a little bit east of Houston, but you should have been in Houston for the past 3 weeks.
And now we have this, so it's likely the third in just over a month.
It's not the month to be in Houston.
It's tough. It is tough to bear.
I definitely think it has to do with how, a lot of it may have to do with how they're maintaining these facilities.
Sure, and
or not maintaining.
And
not
possibly the
maintaining
regulatory environment.
Absolutely. I mean, there are not a lot of regulations. There's a big shortage in the number of people that can actually go out there, and it's incumbent upon us to actually put in something in place to ensure that they're going to follow the rules.
Yeah. Any connection to the Crosby facility? No, not that we know of. Not in ownership nor in operations. We don't believe so. Again, sort of explain why the wind is so important. We got a lot of questions from people.
All right.
I'm north, I'm south, I'm upwind, I'm downwind. Why is the wind so important?
Because you want to know where that plume is going. You want to know where those burning chemicals are headed. Because that helps you make an informed decision in terms of, what kind of dosage is coming in your area. Even though we don't have the data readings yet, I'm hoping we get them, very soon. But again, it gives you an idea of, okay, if I'm not in the area where the chemicals are traveling, I'm much safer to leave my house, go to the store, than someone who's directly in the path of that chemical plume.
So if you can see the plume and it's up above you, you should be inside.
You should be inside. You absolutely should.
So, Samantha writes in and says, my husband works in Baytown. Do I let him come home or have him stay in Baytown with his family? Driving. I guess the question is driving through the affected area.
Right. Again, he is close, but again, if you're not driving towards that area, then he should be okay. He should not have his windows open. He should not be running the AC. He should not be pulling in fresh air. But if he has family there and they can shelter in place, I would play it safe if it were me.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so they're being told, this is where Tom Abrams, our colleague, has been out there, one of the closest people. I think he said it was a little over a mile away, and you can see that wisp of black smoke continuing to rise. That indicates that something is still burning there.
Something is still burning. Something is still burning.
And is there anything that's good that's burning there? I mean, this is a petrochemical facility. This is not any fire there is not a healthy fire.
Nothing, it's not.
Not just a petrochemical facility, it's a chemical facility.
It's putting carbon monoxide in the air.
Carbon monoxide,
depleting the oxygen in the air. It is, it's creating chemical byproducts, or different compounds are being created that are potentially toxic.
She's saying
those
what
particles
I said.
are
That's
not
smart.
good for you.
So they're on
Makes
Sky Eye,
more
you can see the
chemical
same
bonds.
as they focus their shot there. You continue to see the light smoke there.
Right.
Certainly lighter than it was earlier. Someone asked about the 1 mile shelter in place and had a question about that earlier. We believe the 1 mile shelter in place around the facility is still in effect. If we get any updated information on that, we'll certainly have it in 3.5 minutes on the top of the news at 4 o'clock on the TV side, and we'll get that question answered. We do know that the schools that had previously sheltered in place have since let those children go. So if you did not get that word, children are all being released.
All
from
children are
schools
being
in
released.
the area.
That's
in
good.
your opinion, Doc, how long do we
After
stay
the parents sit
indoors? When
outside
can we
and
go
stuff.
out?
Well, I mean, I
Bad.
wouldn't go out tonight, and I
Don't go
would
out
hope
tonight.
that I would wait until we had more information in terms of this fire being extinguished, if at all possible.
But once the fire is out, is that a safe? So even if there's a lag from emergency officials saying, hey,
Sure.
go ahead.
Yeah.
If they see that the fire is out, or they hear emergency officials say, hey, the fire is out, what does that tell them?
The fire out is good. That means you
But there's
are
gonna be
pumping,
more
you know,
smoke.
more chemicals into the air. But that doesn't mean that there aren't chemicals evaporating that are on the ground. See, that's what happened with ITC. You basically had the foam that was covering the chemicals in this burnt out, almost like makeshift petri dish from the containment unit, and it started to
Petri
crack,
dish,
and
that's
that's when
right.
you started to see benzene spikes. So you could see chemical spikes after the fire. So
Yep.
just because the fire's out does not mean the exposure is over, and it's not.
You will see chemical spikes as soon
But
as the
certainly
fire's
getting
over.
up and going to work tomorrow.
This woman's smart.
You know, again, I wish I could give a better, with it being active.
You're not offering work excuses, but you're also not saying tomorrow's a good day to mow the lawn either,
Oh, I'm
depending
not.
on what happens to the fire.
Absolutely, absolutely.
A viewer wrote in, I can't believe no one heard from Kmco by now, not even an official. We should point out that the CEO has put out a statement apologizing both for the fire and expressing sympathy for the families of the
Oh, I'm sorry,
and-
we can't
and
tell you what's in the
one,
fire.
worker who died.
I'm sorry, it's
So
gonna
they do
mess
have
you
a
up.
statement
We can't
that's
tell you to
available on our
evacuate.
website. We have heard from them on some issues. We have not heard from them about
I'm sorry
what
that my
exactly
plant's
is
not
in that
running. It's gonna
warehouse
cost
that
me
caught
millions.
fire, and that's a real key question for public health.
It
Sorry,
truly
the stock's
is,
going down.
and the longer we don't hear something, the more worried or the more concerned that I am from a simple exposure level.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to deal with
I wanna
OSHA
be
tomorrow.
able to say,
Sorry, I'm gonna have to deal
this is
with the
issue.
EPA tomorrow.
Even if
Sorry
it's
that
bad
there's a
issue,
helicopter
here's
flying
how we
over my
protect
stuff.
ourselves, you know.
Baytown and Goose Creek surroundings, Gil writes in, could they be affected? The wind is not blowing to the east. We do know that.
Yeah.
The wind is not blowing
Humble
towards
put.
Baytown, and they
Right.
should be in the clear.
Okay,
They should watch to make sure what's happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the wind could shift, obviously.
Right.
Let's see.
Okay, so, yeah, and Humble put, thanks for your time at Truck and Stuff. Take care and be safe. Take care to all. Yeah, you know, people, I'm gonna have to get out of here. I just wanted to show this, and you can go and finish watching the rest of this, okay? You can go to YouTube. They have the chat and all this stuff. But I wanted to show the chemicals they're not talking about. I put a lot of input into this that was not talked about, but you can go further just by watching the rest of this on your own if you'd like. It's live. Kmco Crosby Chemical Plant Fire in Texas. I'll put a link to this later. I ain't got time to mess with links right now. I'm just going to drop this as a video. But understand what I'm saying is they should be saying evacuate. They're not. It's a whole nother deal. Same plan, I guess, but this doctor right here is really smart. She's saying everything I said. She ought to have her hazmat. I bet she's got a book. I bet she knows about a whole lot of she probably deals with people who have been in this kind of mess and affected by it, and then they're having lifelong issues and it kills them early, and she's treating them. This woman is smart. Listen to her. Don't listen to me. Listen to the book that I showed you and listen to her. So anyways, like I said, this is you can go to YouTube, 13 Houston News, 13 Houston News, and you can watch the rest of this. It's a breaking news report here, and I just had it on the audio on this bottom thing. It's called Live Kmco Crosby Chemical Plant Fire. I got a ride. You people stay safe. Check the comments over here because these people live in there and they're smart and they're telling what's going on too. And then you know, let's see. Yes, you're 100% right. That guy wrote in Russian. Let's see. Where do is used. Let's see. It's hard to. they're talking about kids playing outside. Yeah, so it's all about, you see, I just highlighted so that you can kind of get an idea that there's lots of comments. So y'all stay safe. I just wanted to bring this to your attention that you don't want to drive a truck down there. Don't spend a night down there. Stay away from there. And you should have still be out of that area of even Deer Park, simply because there's all the chemicals that are floating in the air still, and there's liquid chemicals that create them in the water. They dumped them in that bay, and the Coast Guard's out there trying to clean up the mess that they made. So thank you to the Coast Guard. You guys are awesome. They're dealing with stuff they shouldn't have to. I'm gonna get off this thing. That's all I got for you. Operation Hot Biscuit, and I'm gonna drop it in that playlist, Operation Hot Biscuit, and y'all stay safe, and I'm gonna get down the road. Man, don't say evacuate.